It is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, a focus on...
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
But stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s. Or...
It happened before the election because there are too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoing is going to...
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out the lies.
With rules for Thanksgiving. Who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out?
I'm Danny Wash Jr., producer of The Loaded Mic. I just wanted to let you know that you can find us at Simul TV, Right America Media, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also find the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Or you can go to loadedmic.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review.
I am a raging patriot. Uncensored. Today we are highlighting Northern California. For those of you who follow me on YouTube and Instagram, I decided to break California up into two segments, Northern and Southern, very different worlds, and I felt like we needed to hear from both. So today we have Adam from Northern California, the Sacramento area, and I will bring him in a few minutes. But first, let's talk about one of the stupidest things I have heard all week long. And this is actually a story that my mom just told me last night. One of her dear friends jumped through all the hoops to be able to go on vacation to Hawaii. She's walking on the boardwalk or right along the beach, not on the beach, but right by the beach, not wearing a mask, power walking, and her friend, they get pulled over by police officers and ticketed for not wearing a mask. Apparently, if you're running or bicycling, you don't have to wear a mask, but if you're walking, you do. So for those of you considering going to Hawaii on vacation, I say nix that and go to a free state. If you want to be in a warm area, head to Florida, head to Arizona, head to Texas, but skip Hawaii. We don't want to support that type of behavior. Anyways, I want to jump into some of the small wins that we have experienced this week. And so let's talk about, we have Texas. We have Texas Governor Abbott announcing, and I thought Abbott was a rhino. I still think he is a bit of one, but he made a good move this week. And he's announced that they are a free state again. They are no longer going to have COVID restrictions, and the mask mandates are over. Mississippi followed. I don't know Mississippi's governor's name. They just brought themselves into the light. I don't know a lot about that state, need to dig in, but good job, Mississippi. They followed Texas, and they are a free state also. We also have wins coming out of Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma, they passed a bill allowing the state to reject any executive orders from Biden that they feel are unconstitutional. And actually, I believe that North and South Dakota have also passed that. So those are wins for those states as well. Texas and Alabama, they've introduced bills to block Biden concerning unconstitutional executive orders concerning the Second Amendment. So we are seeing some states that are standing up to the Biden administration. But then we have blue states, such as where I'm from here in Oregon and where my guest is from in California, where we are still living under a very dark cloud. And, recently I've talked about the fact that, as my Oregon guest enlightened me to the fact that there is a West Coast Pact that was signed in February of 2020, where all three states are going to handle COVID the same or in unison. I don't see anything changing for the left coast, and I see some dark days ahead. With that, I would like to bring in Adam so we can further this conversation. Hey, Adam, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being on my show. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
And Adam and I connected on TikTok over the summer. And I remember one of the first times we talked was when you shared the fact that there was going to be a freedom rally at the Capitol in Sacramento. And I did a little bit on TikTok so that people in your area would know about it. And you guys set up transportation, et cetera, to get people there.
Yeah,
so
thanks for doing that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I was thinking back. I like to think back when I first connected with guests I have on my show, because I am very selective with who I have on my show. I have to have some rapport and some trust built there. And I knew you were a stand-up patriot for sure.
Cool.
So
thanks.
What I'd like to do, Adam, is I know you attended some of these freedom rallies. I would love to hear about them.
Basically, most of them were about opening up California, getting our kids back to school. Everyone there typically had a Trump flag or an American flag. They were all peaceful. I did hear rumors about people posing as Trump supporters.
Yeah.
And some of the Trump supporters would go up and talk to them. We'd go around talking to each other, and they'd realize that they weren't Trump supporters. They were there to start causing problems, which they would start doing, and people would get them escorted out of the area.
That's good.
Other than that, they were all peaceful.
I figured, and you know that I would say for the greater amount of MAGA supporters or just patriots in general, we are peaceful when we gather. Yeah. And it's people like what you mentioned that they're dressed up as a Trump supporter inciting violence. And of course, the media jumps all over that.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of the people I talked to were registered Democrats that had flipped this year and were voting for Trump.
Oh, wow.
Or
That's
not this
huge.
year, but last year.
I have a lot of respect for people that are willing to open their mind to new ways of looking at things. Because that's like my conservative nature goes deep, runs really deep. And so I never really had to have that aha moment. Right. But I think it's amazing when people do it. It really, I have a new respect for someone that is willing to be open-minded like that.
Yeah.
I love that. So I jumped right in. Sorry, Adam. You are a personal trainer in the Sacramento, California area.
Yep.
Are you born and raised Californian?
Yes, I am. I've lived here over 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes over the years.
Quite a few. So I live out where it's semi-rural, but it's slowly changing to suburban.
Right.
Just because we're 2 hours away from San Francisco, so everyone keeps moving out here.
I can see why.
Yeah.
That's not somewhere I'd want to be right now.
Yeah.
That's wild. So would you say the people that are moving out towards where you're at are Republicans, Democrats?
Kind of a mix of both. We do get a lot of liberals moving out here. Where I live tends to be more conservative.
Okay.
So actually during a typical presidential year, while we lean more conservative and will vote typically for the Republican nominee, you'll typically see about 50-50 with the campaign signs that are out.
Okay.
Like on people's front lawns. This year it was nothing but Trump.
I believe it. Well, you know, that leads me to a question that I have for you. Do you believe that California went red this year?
Yes.
Last year.
I do.
And
actually, there's been concerns with voter fraud here in California for quite a while. So Newsom himself. So I have quite a few liberal clients. And I tend to stay pretty quiet about my political beliefs with my clients unless I know that they're conservative. And with my liberal clients, I'll ask them all kinds of questions. And none that I were training were going to vote for Newsom.
Interesting.
And Judicial Watch, after he took office, had suspicion that he took office through voter fraud. And they actually filed a lawsuit so they couldn't prove voter fraud, but they filed a lawsuit and won that removed more than 1.5 million inactive voters from the registrars down in Southern California.
Oh, wow. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
What year did Newsom get elected?
I think he took office like in 2018 or so. 'Cause he's only been in office a couple of years.
Man, he's done some damage in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's wild. I had never heard that before. So it's almost like California was a testing ground for what took place in 2020.
Right. That's actually what I think is has been going on in California.
Wow.
Basically, Biden is like the national version of Newsom.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can completely see that. Did you see how Biden was speaking? Was he addressing the nation today? And then they just cut him off.
Yeah, when he went to take questions.
My days blur. That was today, right?
Yeah.
Everything blurs together. But that's the first. I thought it was. I thought somebody had put an effect on the video that I watched, and then I kept seeing it coming through my feed, and I'm like, no, that's legit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's so outlandish. It's something that you would expect from China, but not expect here in the United States.
Yeah.
So that's wild. I couldn't believe that. I mean, it's like I can believe that, but you don't want to believe that this is actually reality.
Right.
So no, I could see that. Newsom, a lot of people say, oh, he has great hair and a great ex-wife, and that's about all he has going for him. And it sounds like that is from a Californian standpoint. Is there anything positive that he's done in the past 2 years?
Not that I can name. In fact, so Brown, the governor just before him, previously had the lowest veto rate.
Okay.
And he was near a 10% veto rate.
Okay.
And there are some laws that need to be vetoed.
Right. Was he liberal?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Newsom has been at a near zero veto rate.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if you heard about the SB 145.
No, I couldn't talk to it.
So that one, a lot of people call it the pedophile law. The proponents were trying to claim that it's trying to make things fair for homosexuals and all.
I do know what you're talking about.
So instead of tightening things up, making it harder for pedophiles to do things, it basically made it easier. It made it more equal,
right?
And easier, where it created a 10-year gap as long as they're 14 or older, and it lessened. So some of the requirements for if they get convicted.
Oh, it lessened some of that. That's crazy. I did a TikTok on this, and they said that I violated community standards, and they took my video down. This was over the summer, I believe. I just didn't know I didn't know it by the actual number. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's outlandish.
Right.
And it gets worse and worse. This is somewhat on topic, but I'm part of Free Oregon, and I was just on a call where we were, really what we're working on first is going after schools and what they have in the curriculum. And Oregon actually seems to be the most left-leaning curriculum out of the 50 states. And one of the things that is in the curriculum is the requirement to teach, or at least shed light on, bestiality. Why anyone needs to know what it is. I mean, people get arrested for that. So why are we teaching this in schools? And actually, there was a woman on the town hall that I was on who is a teacher, and she actually retired early because she refused to teach that type of subject matter to children.
Wow.
So she was like, you guys have to actually request it from the school district, or you can request it from Oregon Board of Education, and you have to go through it with a highlighter and really look at what's in the curriculum, because obviously not all teachers are going to teach that, but because so many teachers are left-leaning, a lot will. Yeah. And one is one too many. So that is just,
wow.
There's a lot of things happening right now that are concerning.
Yeah.
And had you heard of the West Coast Pact?
No, not until you posted about it a few days
So
ago.
wild. Yeah, they really kept that one under wraps.
Yeah.
And like the leader of Free Oregon was telling me, that's the first time something like that's been signed since the Civil War. So that's like, it's incredibly concerning. Well, I'll move on to Newsom. There's a lot of material around Gavin Newsom. Yeah. And what I'd like to ask you about is, I just saw you posted something today, and I believe the number that you posted was reflecting as of yesterday's date. But it looks like the last I heard, you needed 1.5 million to recall Newsom. Yeah. But this is almost 2 million. So what's the situation with recalling that loser?
So the goal, they want to get in 2 million signatures.
Okay.
That way, if 25% of them don't pass finalization, then they still hit their goal.
Oh, that makes complete sense. Okay.
So like if someone didn't realize that their voter registration address was different than the address they put down when they signed it, their signature won't count.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the signature verification goes into a lot more than literally just the signature.
Right.
Okay. So there's technicalities. So that's smart. They're building in a 500,000 buffer.
Yeah. I don't know how many the state has currently looked at, but I know they're at about an 82% have passed.
Oh, good.
Of the ones they've looked at.
Well, that's good, because that's trending to where that 500,000 will give you the buffer you need.
Right.
Wow. That's going to be an amazing day. I see it happening. I know that I know you and I spoke about this, and we don't know who's funding the third party who is actually verifying these signatures.
No.
To me, that is a bit concerning, because as we know, people like money, and people will do almost anything for money.
Right.
And so this third party, hopefully it's legit. It sounds like an 80, would you say 82%?
Right.
That sounds good. That's a good place to be.
So the 82%, that was from the state. Is it? I think the Secretary of the State. I'm not sure which department is handling it. That was their percentage.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. I'm excited to see how this plays out. It would just be, gosh, I would love for our states to follow. Right. And I know we want to take some Q&A. So if you guys, everyone watching, if you have questions for Adam, anything pertaining to California, anything for me, throw us a few softballs. You know, like the Biden press secretary, send me some of those. No, I'm just joking. But Adam, I'm curious. So with California, do you get people on your TikTok or in social media that say, why don't you just move? Why do you, doesn't that drive you nuts?
Yeah. And actually I had a former client do that, who was calling out some of the people that were posting on one of my videos. And it was very obvious that it was one of my clients based off of some of the things in his profile.
Okay.
Like a health issue and different things.
Yeah.
And someone called him out about that, saying, you know, if you don't like California, why don't you move? Well, I pointed out to him that he's in a conservative county in a conservative congressional district, and that kind of shut him up and got him off the page.
That's good. Yeah, I have people all the time that are like, you know, when I make my posts, they're like, time to move. And I'm like, you know, it's not that easy. When you have deep roots and you have family and careers, and it's just, you can't just pack up. I mean, you can. It's just not the most rational thing to do. So,
but you know, by moving, they're kind of diluting their voting power too.
It's
because
true.
If everyone goes to one state, you're not going to have other states that might be swing states for the electoral college.
You're so right. You're so right. And you know, like when I had my Oregon segment and I had the leader of Free Oregon on, I had told him I wanted to move to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I was begging my husband, quit your job, let's move, let's get out of here. And Ben from Free Oregon was like, don't, you need to stay and fight. And he said that very thing. He's like,
yeah,
you move, and then, you know, Oregon will never have a chance. Not like I have this huge impact, but we need people, patriots, to stand their ground, and like you're doing in California, and continue to shed light on the truth.
Right.
So, Juan, do we have any questions in the queue?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Okay.
Here's an
Let's
easy
see.
one.
All right, let's see. I'm like, no, I'm just joking.
Is Biden still alive?
Oh gosh. I guess
Physically,
it depends
yes,
on who you're
mentally,
talking
no.
to. What were you gonna say, Adam?
Physically, yes, but brain dead, possibly.
No, I've heard. No, I'm not saying that this is necessarily my belief. I've heard that that's his body double. I don't know. Have you seen the earlobe pictures?
No.
Oh my gosh, it's like at one point they hooked, and I don't know if it's now that they actually like they have that clear lobe, but at one point they just went straight to the jaw.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, unless he got a facelift, which I do think he did, then they could, when they reattach your face, I'm sure that there could be a change there, but.
Liam Curran wants you to talk about Biden skipping the State of the Union address.
Oh my gosh. Well, we were just talking about that earlier. I literally thought it was graphics or effects that somebody had put on that video. I was telling Adam I couldn't even believe that was real. And actually the first person that sent that to me, I was like, is this legit? Yeah, it is. It feels like China. We all know that they did that during one of the debates when China was mentioned. China cut the debate. So unbelievable, but a true depiction of where we're at today, really.
Yeah.
Another question. How does Adam feel about having to train with mask on? Do they work?
So most of my clients don't require it of me, and I'm not going to have my clients do it. I don't think that's good on their respiratory system, putting all that pressure while they're working out. So some of my clients, I do Zoom meetings, so I'm not one-on-one with them. Because of the lockdowns, I had to shut down my studio. So I've had to go to in-home training.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been up to my clients. And so far, none of them have required it. So
it's a good question.
I clean everything. I used to work at a veterinary clinic back in my teens and early 20s. So I'm very specific about cleaning, and I've always done that before COVID, but the mask thing, I'm not going to require. I don't want clients to do that while they're working out.
I don't blame you.
Another question for either one of you. If Newsom is recalled, who do you think will take his place?
So far, I like Major Williams. That's his first name, Major. So.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of Major. I love the name though.
He's got like 100-something thousand followers on Instagram.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so they want to know, how are things in Portland?
Oh my gosh, it's insane. So we are close to, let's just say we're on trend concerning homicides to hit a record. So in 1987, that's the highest Portland has had in the last 100 plus years. And in the 80s in Portland, lots of gang activity. My dad taught in high schools in Portland and he had to break up fights. I hear all those stories. But anyways, lots of gang activity. So we are actually on trend right now to not only break that record mid-year, but to potentially double the homicide record of 1987. Wow. So I know that we've been averaging, oh my gosh, like at least three homicides a week so far in 2021. So and actually I had a liberal friend tell me the other day that she's so sick of Portland, and to have somebody say that, that's on the liberal end of things, you know, it's just wearing on everybody.
Yeah.
So not great here.
First Sergeant is asking, what's the latest on the homeless taking over the hotels in California, and the governor saying he isn't going to do anything about it?
Mm.
You know, I don't know much about the hotel issue. Where I live, up until a few years ago, they were actually pretty good with dealing with the homeless. And then the state passed some laws that tied the hands of the local governments. So things have gotten way out of control where you see garbage everywhere now.
That's crazy.
They actually passed a law where any state-owned land, and California state actually owns a lot of the land in California. Any state-owned land can be deemed for use for homeless.
Oh, wow.
So if you have a state park nearby, that can become a little homeless encampment.
Oh, wow. Imagine that. Didn't that happen in Beverly Hills?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine spending all that? Not that I'm like pro, well, uber wealthy person, but I'm just like, can you imagine spending that much money on a home to live in that environment, and then you have a homeless camp in your park?
Yeah.
And instead of being able to bring your kids there and whatever. I mean, that's wild.
Well, so this during the summer, actually, I think it was last year before the lockdowns, there was a hair salon owner who was in our local city paper because she was having issues with the homeless at her front door of her business, and she'd call the cops and they would say there's nothing they could do about it. So she'd have to come in early, clean things up, so all the feces off of the sidewalk, try to sweep up as much as she could. Often though, she couldn't get the people to move out of the way, so she had to step over them getting in. So she ended up shutting down her business because of the homeless.
That is horrible.
Yeah.
One last question for KSOK from
Yes.
Queen Bird. The question is, what does the police presence looks like in Portland?
The police presence. Well, it's difficult. So the police presence, I would say something to remember is the person in charge of all the police is not the police chief. It's actually the mayor. The mayor serves as the police commissioner for the Portland Police Bureau. So that's something. So, and that's we have Ted, who's a complete nimwit. So the police presence, though, the police officers they're tired. They're tired of not being supported. I don't even know that they're tired. They're dealing with abuse every day. A lot of them are retiring early. There's a lot of them switching to smaller departments. There are a lot of them going over to Vancouver, Washington, or in Southwest Washington to get away from the politics of Portland. So I don't necessarily know about the presence, but I would say that the morale is low. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, that was fun. That was our first Q&A, Adam. I haven't done that before.
Yeah. That
So
was cool.
I'm so glad that you were here for that.
Cool.
Yeah. Well,
thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being on so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And if you want people to get in touch with you, do you still have your TikTok up and running?
Yes. I've gone through, a couple of accounts. I don't remember my username.
That's all right. Well, I can always post it. We get shadow banned all the time. I'm shadow banned right now on TikTok, so I totally get it. I've had to create backup accounts, and
I've had 2 or 3 accounts that were just shut down completely.
Yep. It's like what did someone say? It's like a badge of honor these days. It means you're doing something right with sharing the truth.
Right.
So, all right, Adam. Well, I can get it from you, and I can put it in the post comments.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
All right. You too.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. So awesome to have Adam on from I almost said North Carolina, Northern California. And before I send you over to Keith, I want to show you that lamp. I've been waiting for that for 2 months. So welcome a new member of my staged family here. I'm very excited. I'm sure you noticed the difference. I had 3 lamps since I started doing this show. And you're like, what the heck is she doing? Anyways, that one's here to stay. But stick around. We have Keith with my 2 cents. Here he is. I think, hello. I don't know if that's me or you. Might be you. It's fun to blame something on Keith. He's that personality that can just handle a good razzing. That's a big microphone too. Technical issues. I'm like, I'll just entertain you guys right now. Talk about what's happening in the world while he figures that out. So Keith was just at CPAC. I'm very jealous. I will be going next year. And I was able to watch some live feeds. And it looks like they had a great time. And it looked like they were in just really good, really great people around them. So, I was slightly concerned with going to CPAC. I'll be honest. I know it was moved from DC to Orlando. And I was slightly concerned about the security piece because, having Antifa here, I wonder if they're just going to follow wherever conservatives are going to be. But from what I've gathered, it was a very well organized, orchestrated event. And I hear I missed out on a really good time. So that's something that I will be doing next year for sure. And if any of you have a chance, you can go view streams, even though they already took place. If you go on ramtv.live, you'll be able to see streams of the event. And I know the Savvy Truth was on there and she was able to interview some great people. Yeah. We're good. I was able to pull something out of somewhere.
That was a lot better than I would have done. I'll tell you that right now.
I'm like, I can talk.
You did good.
Nice.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
KSOK, would you be surprised if I told you I had yet another bone to pick with you?
No,
this is
I wouldn't.
Pick a bone with KSOK segment that we have to do every week.
Oh, I love it. I love a good razz.
We needed you there. There was so much going on at CPAC. I heard you talking about it. We needed you there.
I know. I needed to be there. That's the type of environment I vibe in too. It's like,
tell me how jealous you are.
I'm very, very jealous.
Lay it on.
And actually, my husband, I told you guys last week, I was like, I should be there. This isn't cool. Next time I'm just going to book tickets without talking to you. And then,
I don't know about that.
That's like marriage, like 101 that you don't do. But I like to keep things edgy. But anyways, yeah, I will be there. And so every time I saw a new stream, I'm like, dang it.
Did you get to see what we were doing?
Yeah,
I think
it looked
we were
awesome.
holding it down. Did you see us live from inside the ballroom?
Oh yeah, incredible.
I think we did a great job.
Yeah, and you did great. I loved watching because I've never interviewed somebody like live with the mic right there. It's a different experience, and you did
definitely
awesome.
Was.
So
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know you're a natural. So
okay, so it's Northern California this week. Are we going directly into Southern California next week?
Yes. And I was like, I need a female. The truth is, there are not as many females interested in politics. That's just what I'm finding.
Yeah, some outreach might be, prosperous for us. We might want to get the word out.
I know. But I have a female next week. I was successful, and she's Southern California, Leo wife. And
okay.
She's excited. So
I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yes, it'll be nice. So
all right. Well, thanks a lot. I'll see you next week.
Great show. All right. Bye.
All right, Juan, roll it. Good evening and welcome to Here's My 2 Cents with me, your host, Keith 2 Cents Sanders. First, I was alluding to it just a moment ago. Right America Media had an amazing week last week. We went to CPAC in Orlando, Florida. Why Orlando, Florida, you might say? Because Washington, D.C. is an absolute nightmare, and Orlando, Florida is where you go if you want to do anything right now. Ron DeSantis has opened up this state. I'll get into more of that later. And we were able to host it. We did it responsibly. We had a good time. We were able to actually live our lives. While we were there, things went crazy for Right America Media. It was so exciting when we were live, and I'm going to get into this more later. When we were live, and I'm actually live right now with followers on TikTok. I love seeing you all over here. Thank you so much. We were live from inside the ballroom with number 45. We didn't know when he was going to be coming on. So myself and Josh Barnes, and we're getting to everybody else who was there. Everyone was working together to make sure that we were putting on a good show. While we were live and inside at CPAC, things just went absolutely crazy for our site. And I really just want to make sure that I say thank you to everyone that was involved. I'll get more into the particulars of who a little bit later. We absolutely blew up the whole time we were there. Our followers, our subscribers, the viewers that we were holding. We had over 10,000 people over here on TikTok. I think we were carrying 3,500 people on our platforms. And I am so thankful for everyone who came along. And this goes right into something that I've been pitching on this show since I started, which is to say we need to make sure that we continue to support the small conservative outlets, especially over here on TikTok or on other social media. Make sure that the word is getting heard. Make sure that when you see someone that you agree with, comment, like, share. Make sure that word is getting out. We're all seeing this cancel culture. I mean, they came for Dr. Seuss. What are they going to do to you and I? Dr. Seuss was actually quite liberal. I am not. You might not be either. What are they going to do to us? We have to make sure that we continue to support ourselves. We had a great time at CPAC. There was a lot of support going around. I have a lot of stories from behind the scenes. We're going to go into that a lot tonight. I just really want to nail down that we have to support each other, and we have to make sure that this conservative word continues to get out. Okay. Plugs aside, make sure you follow me aside. With all that being said, let's get into the meat of this week. Ram TV invades CPAC, and I do mean that. And we heard there were some other people there. We could probably talk about them a little bit too. There's big trouble in New York for Cuomo. Legislation, including H.R. 1 and COVID relief, makes its way from the House over to the Senate. And with that being said, here's my 2 cents on distract and conquer. That is certainly a play on the term of divide and conquer. You could easily replace distract with divide. We see it each and every day. There is always a way for them to distract us in order to keep us from looking at what we actually want to look at. I'm going to hit a topic real quick. Maybe I'll spend a little bit more time with it. Something that wasn't going to be on this week, but I saw something about it right before we went on, and it got me hot. It got me absolutely hot. So this is going to be a hot take from 2 Cent. If you didn't know, our National Guard is still stationed at the Capitol. January 6th happened a long time ago. It was wrong. I have denounced it time and time again. It should not have happened. I will continue to denounce it and make no excuses for it. It should have never happened. It should never, ever happen again. That being said, it was a complete knee-jerk reaction to bring in the National Guard. Now that they are there, they have to be guards for the Capitol, and they have to guard a barrier around that Capitol. This got me so hot because these are our men and women who are citizen soldiers who have raised their right hand to protect the United States from all and the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. There was nothing to defend up there. Let's do an exact swap and say what would have happened if Donald J. Trump had brought in the National Guard to protect the Capitol. The sight of that would have been used to show him as a tyrant, to show him as a dictator. This would be a threat to our democracy, which they love to scream all the time. This is the stuff of tyrants. And this barrier, another word for that is a wall. So it's absolutely amazing that we have a situation where you have a wall around the Capitol, around people who say that walls don't work. This absolutely has me infuriated. And I normally like to stay cool, calm, and collected, but having been in the service and seeing our brothers and sisters who have to leave their families behind, leave their children behind, leave their lives behind to go protect these people who don't like them, who vetted them before they even allowed them to start protecting them, who put up a wall to protect themselves. I'm hot. I'm hot on this one. Fortunately, my governor is a great governor, Ron DeSantis. I triple checked this before I came on. He recalled his National Guard to make sure that his people were being taken care of. They are home here in Florida. Put pressure on your political leaders. There is no reason for this to be happening. Let's just take that quick swap. Let's say it was Trump. We'd be furious, right? Wouldn't everybody be furious if Trump had surrounded himself with 25,000 troops and put a wall around the Capitol? Well, it applies here too. There is absolutely no reason this should be going on anymore. Where's our good friends in the media? Nobody's even covering it. They're not even talking about it. There's just a little bit of a snippet here and a snippet there in the sense that they're going to be extended now. Now the police are saying they want them to stay there longer because of the possibility of threats of violence, because of the possibility that these might get a lot worse. Now, I was told under good authority, and guys, normally I'm a lot calmer. I really am, and I think you know that. This one's got me going. I was told on good authority that when you bring in federal troops, it actually makes the situation a lot worse. Juan, if you can for me real quick, can you play cut 7?
I gotta say,
federal agents sent to restore order in Portland have poured petrol on disorder. What was a largely peaceful protest has escalated into violence. The main battle line is here, outside the federal courthouse. Protesters unable to pull down the new fence throw fireworks over. Tear gas is fired back. Many here are prepared for this. But as federal agents emerge in their dozens, those in gas masks run too. Rubber bullets fired into the darkness. It's quite frightening.
This isn't the first time tear gas has been fired at protesters tonight, but it's the first time we've seen federal agents outside of the federal courthouse. And it's the first time that it's driven crowds away, but it doesn't look like they've gone. Certainly, it doesn't seem like either side is going to give up anytime soon.
So there you have it. It gets a lot worse, right? It gets worse when you bring in the federal troops. That very intelligent person from England, presumably, land of freedom, came over here with our freedom of speech to talk about what she wanted to talk about. And then she wants to spill that if you bring in federal troops, it's going to get a lot worse, right? You heard the lady. You heard her say it poured petrol. That's their word for gasoline. Poured petrol on the fire. Things were just fine as they were firing fireworks into that federal building. It only got worse when the federal troops got there. Why doesn't that apply universally? Why don't we have the situation where you brought 25,000 troops in, and you better believe when the Guard gets called up, they're now under federal control. The Guard got called up. Why is that not pouring petrol on the situation? Why is it not getting worse? Maybe because the people that they're to protect against realized what happened on January 6th was wrong. Nobody wants to be a part of it, and everyone has gone home. There should be more violence. Why doesn't it apply? There's federal forces there. You don't know why? You want to know why they're still there? It's another distraction. I know I said that they're not really keeping tabs on it, but the idea that they are there is just yet another form of a distraction of what's happening actually inside those walls. And we're going to get into that more later. Okay. 2 Cent, calm down. Whew. I got hot today. That one had me going. We got better news. Let's hard shift. Come with me. We got better news. I alluded to it earlier. I talked to KSOK a little bit about it. RamTV.live, Right America Media, absolutely invaded CPAC. What is CPAC? The Conservative Political Action Conference happens every year. It's supposed to happen in Washington, D.C. However, Washington is an absolute nightmare, as I just showed you, under federal rule right now. Oh, don't do it again. Okay, we're going to go forward. Here we go. While we were there, we did absolutely invade it. I've got a great bonus cut for you. Juan, if you're ready, can you please play that bonus cut I sent to you?
All summer, United States, you won't do it.
Jim,
I wish you all the best.
Part in dividing this country, Jim. Yeah. What's your part in that? What's your part in all that fake news and your Russian collusion that you went on with about 3 years, Jim?
I wish you all the best.
All that evidence that you had, Jim, where did it show up? When did it show up? What's your part in what happened on January 6th? We all did. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? Is this guy? This guy was in there. We saw good old Jim Acosta. I was there with Caitlin Bennett. Well, we weren't necessarily together, but Caitlin Bennett, you can see her microphone is there from Liberty Hangout. Check her out. She's fantastic. And we were giving Jim Acosta a little bit of his own medicine. We wanted to see how he liked it. And you know what? He didn't really like it, but that was your boy. I actually had that live. I went live on TikTok over here. I think we had about 1,500 people watching that day. It was absolutely fantastic. However, for some weird reason, it did not record. And I was really bummed about it because my lives are supposed to record. I was going to take it down, chop it up, and show you guys some fun clips from it. But for some reason, it didn't record. I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist, but they totally took it away from me. I'm just kidding, but seriously, they did. So I was super happy when someone tagged me in it. So somebody else had the video, and then somebody that recognized me actually from over here on TikTok, they actually tagged me in it. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is so crazy that somebody found me and said, hey, that's my boy, Tucson. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. We had a ton of fun while we were there. Jim Acosta came more than once. Keith Hansen, who was also down with us, he had a fun interaction with Jim Acosta as well. Make sure you go over to Right America Media on Facebook. That goes for you guys over here as well. Right America Media on Facebook. Check out, we have a lot of videos up there for you. Also, Right America Media on YouTube. Like I said, Keith Hansen had a nice interaction with Jim Acosta. Savvy Truth was there. She had some really good interviews. I'll get more into that here shortly. I had a lot of fun with that. I absolutely could not believe that somebody had a recording of it and then somebody else actually recognized me and tagged me in it. That was super fun. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. Into CPAC itself. What a weekend. What a weekend. We got there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We had folks come in from New Hampshire and Virginia. I was there from Florida. We had folks in from Texas. I'm telling you, CPAC was invaded by Right America Media, ramtv.live. When we were there, we actually did a lot of networking. It's sort of a networking event, but not in a sense of self-promotion. Everyone, it was pretty quick to see that everyone that was there was trying to grow the message. Yes, everyone wants to grow their site. Everyone wants to grow their portion. But I got a sense pretty quickly that we weren't all there to fight over the same crumb out of the pie that is completely owned by the liberal media. We were there to grow and to empower, to steal a liberal's word, the voices and to push them up and to elevate them up. And I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Another thing that I was seeing from days 1 and 2, and obviously day 3 is going to be its own topic. And if you don't know why, 45 was there. But we're going to separate it out, day 1 and 2, then we'll go into day 3. Throughout day 1 and day 2, I had a lot of conversations with people. So we had a lot of interviews. I want you guys to go over to Right America Media on Facebook. You too, Right America Media on Facebook. Also check out Right America Media on YouTube. We have all of our videos from the past weekend. There's a lot of interviews on there, and I want you guys to go check it out. But some of it was just having good conversation with folks. I can think of no less than 20 different times over Friday and Saturday, I had a conversation that went something along the lines of, it's really nice to be able to express my opinions and not be afraid. I really want that to sink in. I was talking to young people from college all the way up to folks that were in their 70s and 80s and everything in between. And at least 20 times I had a conversation with somebody who unsolicited from me said something to the tune of, it's really nice to be able to express my opinions without fear. That is a really scary situation for people to be in. I was talking to people from liberal colleges, liberal cities, and they said they couldn't even put anything out of what they felt or why. The public square is completely gone to them. They have no voice without fear of reprisal, without fear of violence. And not the violence that the left wants to talk about where speech is violence, true violence. Being attacked for what they believe in, for putting forward their ideas, for debating, for dissenting with what the left has said. It was quite saddening. It was quite saddening. Young people saying, it's so amazing to be with like-minded people. I am completely surrounded with people from the left who do not allow for dissenting opinions. It was downright heartbreaking. Lots of some more fun. Day 2. Day 2 started out, we were in there, we had some interviews set up, and we were setting up for how we were going to do some more cross platforming. So I was going to meet with some people from the other platforms and we were going to sort of all mix together. Well, I guess the word got out. The word got out that Right America Media was there and everybody wanted a piece of Right America Media. If you don't know, we have an absolutely great lineup of people that all came down. Savvy from The Savvy Truth, and you all can check her out on YouTube, The Savvy Truth. You can also check her out here on Right America Media. Talented young lady, extremely intelligent. She had an amazing interview with Kevin Sorbo. If you don't know who that is, God's Not Dead. He's also from Hercules from back in the day. If you've got enough gray hairs like me, you might remember Hercules. She had an amazing interview with him. And then also Sam Sorbo, who is married to Kevin Sorbo. Go check them out on Right America Media on Facebook or Right America Media on YouTube. And she did an absolutely wonderful job. I had an opportunity to interview a former state senator named Frank Lassay from Minnesota. He's out there giving another approach to what CO2 does to our environment. To remain objective, I didn't necessarily agree with everything that he had to say, but you know your boy 2 Cent. You know I'm going to be objective to a point. And you know, I'm definitely going to be transparent with you. I make my jokes. I do try to stay transparent. I can't stand when people say the term, to be honest with you, because that means that everything I said until now was I was dishonest. So I like to remain transparent with you. In this interview, I didn't necessarily agree with what he was presenting. I gave him a platform. It doesn't mean that I validate what he had to say, but I gave him an opportunity to say his part. And then I had my part. And then people had their own opportunity to make their own decisions. Far too often we hear on the left, don't validate what they're saying by giving them a platform. Absolutely validate their right to say it. Bring them on. Disagree with them. Have civil discourse. Have them present their data. You present yours. They can present their opinion. You present yours. It's amazing. It's crazy. I know. I don't know why anybody would subscribe to it. It sounds insane to me. Maybe we can write it down on a piece of paper. We can even call it a right. I don't know. Maybe we'll give everyone the same opportunity. Day 2, complete whirlwind. I think I got there a little bit late. I'm never late. I was so disappointed I was late that day. It was such a long day the day before. These are all excuses. I had no reason to be late. Juan, the producer, I apologize to you one more time. I was late. I'm never late. I was so disheartened. I woke up. My wife woke me up and said, "What time are you supposed to leave?" I looked at her and said, "Let me get my life together. I have no idea what's going on." It took me a couple minutes. I got my life together and I realized I was running late. Okay, so my apologies aside. Juan, I appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much. So we get there. I'm a little bit late. I look down. We're heads down. Everyone's killing it. We're working technical. We're working behind the scenes. We're doing an interview. We're pulling people in. People are asking us questions. We're having tons of conversation. We're making sure that we're doing great interviews. The whole team came together and I look up, it's 2:30. It was crazy. I looked down, heads down, making things happen. It's 2:30. I haven't eaten yet. I think Josh Barnes was probably the only one who ate. He's going to tell you that he didn't. Josh, I'm going to have to get you every time, buddy. Every time. You can come back later at me if you'd like. Real quick, let me put the thank yous out there that I had promised. We had Savvy from The Savvy Truth, who did an absolutely wonderful job. I want you all check her out on YouTube, The Savvy Truth. And then we had Shannon, who came in as well. She was such a huge help. And I really, really liked the fact that she was so welcoming. And I really appreciate you, Shannon. Thank you so much for coming out. We had the Barnes boys, who of course were off doing their own thing. I'm not sure. Justin contributed like a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Check them out. They have a show as well called The Point of View. You can get them on Right America Media. They give a Christian point of view to the world events that are happening. They're both great guys. I tease them because it's easy. That's why I do it. It says nothing. It says nothing to me. Then we had Keith Hansen as well, who runs his own show on Right America Media. Great guy, wealth of knowledge. He imparted a lot of it upon me. I really appreciate that time as well with you, Keith Hansen. And then, of course, to the man, the myth, the legend, Juan Gowd, the great guy who started this whole platform. I thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you so much. All right. So all the smooches aside, I got to talk about something kind of serious. On day 2, the word started getting out that, I'm not going to say their names, a 3-letter protest group and a group that is anti-something were outside. Word started getting out that they were out there. And I paid it no never mind, just as long as they weren't coming inside. I will say I felt that the security there was a little lax. I didn't want to say it at the time because I didn't want to draw attention to myself, but I felt it was a little lax. So I was a little uneasy that this 3-letter anti group outside, if they really wanted to push, they could have potentially gotten inside. I'm glad it didn't happen. Here's where I'm going with all this. When I found out that they were out there, I had to go to my team and say, listen, if anything crazy kicks off, I have to go the other direction. That's not to say that I'm scared. That's not to say that I'm not there to be a journalist or anything of the like. I just can't be a part of anything if it kicks off. I have a family to take care of. God forbid I'm in the background of somebody's Instagram picture when there's a fight going on at a political event. And that's terrible. I'm there with a media outlet. I had a press badge on. I'm also a citizen. I have a freedom of speech. I can be a citizen journalist. I can go forward and say what is happening. I have an outlet. I have the means with which to tell a story. However, like I was talking about earlier with especially the younger college age people, I have to be afraid. I have to be afraid if something kicks off, I can't even be around it. I would, of course, not participate in it. And I denounce all violence. I wouldn't encourage it, but I couldn't even be in there trying to stop it because I'd be afraid of what would come for me. That's really disheartening. That's really scary. I didn't want to tell the people that I'm with, hey, if something kicks off, I got to go that way. That's awful. I was really sad about that. I don't know how you all feel about that, but that's something that I just feel is awful, that we have to be afraid if we actually are in a press, and I am. It's a little strange for me to say because I'm still new to this, being transparent. But I felt terrible that I had to say that. And this is a deep reflection of what's happening in this culture right now. You have one side that can say whatever they want. And I'm looking at you, Joy Reid. Look up some of the things she has said recently. I don't even want to say it out there because it's so awful. Joy Reid from MSNBC has said that conservatives want to say the worst word. I won't even abbreviate it for you. She says that conservatives will give up all the tax cuts in the world to be able to say the worst word. Well, given that the worst word is directed towards one group, you'd have to eliminate that group from her term conservatives, and you'd have to eliminate other minorities from her term conservative. So you know who she's talking about. The evil patriarchy, the cisgendered white male. So she could say that I want to be able to say the worst word out there, and that's my real problem in life. That's my real problem. What's going on? It's disgusting. It's horrific. But at the same time, I have to be worried of what would happen to me if I were to report on something. This is what we're facing. This is why when they tell us that there is no cancel culture, this is what we're talking about. So I'm going to try to give a voice to it. I don't have a huge voice. I've got some good followers over here. I appreciate you being here. I've got some followers on here. I'm going to continue to give a voice to this. Let's get back to some fun. Let's get away from this. We're going to have some fun. Day 3 kicks off. What's happening on day 3? What's happening on day 3? The man is coming. Number 45 is going to be there. Now, day 1 and day 2 were pretty subdued. It was a little strange. It was kind of a feeling of what's going to happen. Is he going to come? He's going to come. What's going to happen while he's here? There's protesters outside. Is anything crazy going to kick off? It was kind of subdued. Sunday kind of dropped a little bit more, but something amazing happened. Josh Barnes, from the point of view, secures us 2 passes to go inside the ballroom. Juan and Josh take off. They go inside. They get us set up. They did an amazing job. We get an opportunity to go inside. We are inside. It was absolutely amazing. Later, it was amazing. When I first got in there, energy was kind of low. But we go live. We go live and we start showing what's happening. That's when our viewership starts going up. People were clamoring for any information on Trump. This is something I've been talking about for some time, and I don't want to say I worry because it would help us, but the media might be turning him into a martyr. They might be turning him into a situation where people are going to continue to seek him out and see the media as the bad guy, social media as the bad guy, big tech as the bad guy. Because if we have anything on Trump on the inside, our viewership goes crazy. So we were there. So we turned on the cameras. The live that I had over here had over 10,000 people watch it. We were holding 3,500 people across our platforms. That's huge for us. We're a tiny outlet. And our subs, I think, went over 2,000 during that time. And I want to thank all of you for it. Thank all of you that came along with us. It was absolutely fantastic. Of course, Trump was there. But if you didn't know it, other than your boy 2 Cent and other than number 45, there were some other speakers there. One in particular I was not happy with, and I will be transparent with you here. That was with Ted Cruz. If you did not get a chance to see his speech, I'll give you an excerpt here in a minute. But it was no meat, no substance. And it was basically a bad comedy act. Let's just get right into it. Juan, can you please play for me cut 4?
I gotta say, Orlando is awesome. It's not as nice as Cancun. But it's nice. And I gotta say, what an amazing array of speakers here at CPAC. For a second there, I thought we were in Des Moines. That one took people a minute. So what do we do? What do we do at a time where the hard left is resurgent? 2 very simple things. Number 1, we defend liberty. Look, are there tensions in our party? Sure. Because we believe in diversity. We believe in individuality. Different people have different views. I'll tell you what can unite conservatives and libertarians and those who value the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is a love of liberty.
There's a lot of meat on that bone. A lot of meat on that bone. There's a lot of bad jokes. If you didn't know the Des Moines, Iowa joke, he was saying that it was every year or every 4 years when the presidential election kicks off, everybody goes to Iowa first. Just bad jokes. Yeah, he wanted to make light of the Cancun thing. Good for you. What did we get? We got platitudes. Big word of the day. Platitudes. We got, we're going to fight. Great, Ted. How? We're going to fight for liberty. Okay, Ted. How? Liberty is important. Cool, Ted. Cool. Buddy, what are you going to do? You're in the Senate. You have a 50-50. Are you going to protect the filibuster? What's the filibuster? The filibuster, as the Democrats will say, is a way for Republicans to keep laws from passing. The reality is it was a way to keep tyranny of the majority from happening. It's something we talk about a lot on here. Tyranny of the majority is when you're in a pure democracy, which we're not. We're in a constitutional republic. But when you're in a pure democracy, when 51% of the people want your bike, they take your bike. The filibuster was there to ensure that there was some level of bipartisanship, that the sides would work together. You have to have 67 votes from the Senate out of 100 in order to pass these laws, which means you have to work together. Democrats want to get rid of this filibuster. Why? Because they're sitting at a 50-50 with a tiebreak of Kamala Harris. So they could pass any and everything that they would possibly want. I have expectations from senators. Ted, I have an expectation of you. What are you doing other than telling us bad jokes? Telling us bad jokes and giving us absolutely no meat on that bone. None. None whatsoever. Now let's compare him and his speech to Governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. Juan, please play cut 5.
But not everyone has followed this path. For those of you who don't know, South Dakota is the only state in America that never ordered a single business or church to close. We never instituted a shelter-in-place order. We never mandated that people wear masks. We never even defined what an essential business is, because I don't believe that governors have the authority to tell you that your business isn't essential. Now, South Dakota schools are no different than schools everywhere else in America, but we approached the pandemic differently. From the earliest days of the pandemic, our priority was the students, their well-being, and their education. When it was time to go back to school in the fall, we put our kids in the classroom.
That's meat on the bone. That's meat on the bone. Kristi Noem. Watch out for Kristi Noem. Watch out for her. She actually started off with a joke herself that said, let's be honest, a year ago, none of you knew who I was. That's Kristi Noem. That's meat on the bone. There's something when you're giving an interview, if you guys could take this forward, if you ever go into a job interview, it's called the STAR method. It's called specific task action result. And that's exactly what she did there. She was specific. She talked about what the task was, the action she took, and the result of it. Absolutely fantastic. Just taking her, putting her next to Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz in the Senate, talking in complete platitudes. And then you have Kristi Noem from the executive branch in South Dakota. Now, let's be transparent when it comes to this as well. I'm not going to say let's be honest, right? I'm going to say let's be transparent. She never closed down, and she didn't have a mask mandate. However, in South Dakota, they don't have nearly the population or the population density of, say, Florida or Texas, California, New York. Why does that matter? We do know that in more dense places, you're going to have more likelihood of the spread. So these are factors that we have to take into account. I just want to make sure that I'm transparent here that yes, while she didn't do these things, she can't necessarily say that it wasn't the right decision in other places for any level. But what it does tell us is that federalism works. What is federalism? Something we talk about a lot on here. It's getting the most bang for your buck at the lowest possible level, and that may mean all the way down to you, the individual. Top-down approaches to government do not work. When you make one sweeping action for an entire country as large as ours, as actually diverse as ours, and as spread out as we are, with massive differences just in Florida alone. Central Florida is completely different than coastal Florida. Southern Florida is completely different than the Panhandle. So DeSantis said, I can't possibly tell everyone what to do with one decision from Tallahassee. I will give it to my municipalities. I will give it to my counties and my cities for them to make the decisions at the lowest level possible. They know their people. They know the situation. So she showed us that you can be successful in different areas doing things different ways. I really want you to keep an eye on her. There were other presenters that were there. I would say a great deal of them. There was no meat, a great deal. I was disappointed. I would say a lot of it was liberals bad, Dems are mean, they're taking your country. How about some direction? How about some possible solutions? How about some leadership? Leadership, you say, 2 Cent? Leadership, you say? Is there anyone we know that demonstrates more leadership than number 45? That day was subdued when it started. And then as it went on, which I'm talking day 3, Kristi Noem went earlier, and so did Cruz. But on day 3, let's get back to day 3. The energy was low. Jim Jordan came out, popped the crowd. Your boy was live over here talking to 10,000 people. So I didn't really get to hear what Jim Jordan was saying, but the electricity in the room started to go up. The energy in the room started to go up. And everybody knew if Jim Jordan was now, number 45 was coming up. So we're having a good time on the live over here. We're talking to over 10,000 people. People were running over to Right America Media. I want to see all of you on Right America Media on Facebook. Everything started kicking off. Things started going insane. Everything was going great. Now let's take what Cruz said. Let's take what Noem said, and let's put that up next to number 45. Juan, please play cut 46. I'm sorry, cut 6. Sorry about that, cut 6. You know what?
All the way in the
there we
back,
go.
blue sweater.
That's okay. We'll get to that in a second. Let's see if we can pull it up. It's the one with Trump's speech. So if you guys can get that going in the background.
That's why I'm announcing that I will be actively working to elect strong, tough, and smart Republican leaders. We want Republican leaders who are loyal to the voters and who will work proudly for the vision that I've laid out today. And what is it? So simple, right? So simple. Military, law and order, great trade deals, great education. So simple. Does anybody get it? What are they?
You miss him. I miss him. I missed him. I missed him. It was great to be in there. It was great to be in the room. And there was meat there. He gave a way forward. He said, we have to vote in strong conservative Republicans. Those are actually going to represent us. Why is that important? It's not just 2024, folks. We have 2022. There's a narrow lead for the Democrats in the House, and it's a 50-50 in the Senate. We could take both those chambers back. So if any of this wild and crazy legislature that they're trying to push through, this legislation that they're trying to push through gets through, and we could take back the House and the Senate, which is what Trump is talking about here, which is the meat on the bone that he's talking about right here, we can get that crazy legislation gone. Whatever they put in place, and I'll talk about HR 1 here in a bit and the implications that has going forward. If they're able to get HR 1, which is massive reform to the way that we do voting, if we can get 2022 back, which is what he's talking about here. I'm sorry, in 2022, if we can get the Congress back, both chambers, we can get rid of this. We can get rid of, and I'll tell you what HR 1 here is in a little bit. Something else that he did, man, is always power moves, power moves, power moves. He named names. He went after those that went after him. He also let them know, hey, by the way, I'm almost undefeated in my endorsements. McConnell, I'm not so sure you're good to go. You got another 6 years. I know that, buddy, but Cheney, you got a problem coming up for you. You got a serious problem. To remain transparent, something I didn't like about his speech, and it was interesting because I just leaned over to my co-host, Josh Barnes, and said, I'm kind of glad that he's not going over the accusations or the alleged voter fraud. I'm saying that specifically on purpose. And he said, yeah, it's time for us to look forward. And immediately Trump went into it. Immediately. It was like as if on cue. I wasn't there to relitigate. I'm not 100% on everything that the president has always said. I was ready to be looking forward. I saw that he was looking forward when he was talking about 2022. I saw that he was looking forward when he said we have to put in the strong conservatives, and I will be endorsing strong conservatives, and that we could take the House and the Senate back. Some more meat that he did put on there, though, when he talked about what happened in the last election was we're not just going to dwell on it. What can we do going forward? We have to have voter ID. We have to have signature matching. We have to have one-day vote, not this 3-4 month long and everything by mail. He talked about pushing back on our state leaders because we can do that at the state level. And that the fact, like I've mentioned before, we could take back the Congress in 2022. Just to recap that day, the excitement was through the roof. Everyone was very excited to see him again. I would say that he was relaxed. He was having fun again with the crowd, and he was really having a good time. We've talked a lot about CPAC, so let's go to some other topics here for a little bit. You go from Trump, the evildoer that he is, to his foil, his nemesis, the antithesis to Trump, which is, that's big word of the day, number 2, to New York governor, the great, the Emmy award-winning governor for his daytime briefings of truth and justice and transparency, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. So now we have not one, we have two, not two, we have 3 allegations. So I want to know, where's believe all women? He says that due process is necessary. Where was that due process for Justice Kavanaugh? Where was that? Oh, by the way, where's Me Too? Where are you? Where are those feminists? Where are you? Where are the feminist Gillibrand from your state? Where are you? Hillary, where are you? Kamala, where are you? This brings me back, and if you guys are old enough to remember, this brings me back to Bill Clinton. There was a saying, I'm going to paraphrase, where people in his administration, the females in his administration, said, he's a slime bag. Yeah, but he's our slime bag. Got that again, right? He's our slime bag. Vote blue no matter who, right? Right? Let's go in that way back machine. I swear the liberals and the Democrats think that we don't have access to the internet. Or like Joe Biden said, maybe some of us don't know how to use the internet. But we can use the internet. And there were some fun prognostications. Big word of the day, number 3. Some of them did not age so well. Why? Can you please play for me cut 2?
All right, brace yourself for this one. We're getting a little bit of intel into what a Biden cabinet could potentially look like. And one of the names that is apparently being floated and getting a lot of buzz for AG is the one and only Andrew Cuomo. A few things. Obviously, Cuomo shot to resistance liberal hero status for his press conferences during coronavirus, even as the actual decisions that he made, from delaying shutdown to what he did with nursing homes and moving COVID patients into nursing homes and protecting them from any liability, actually led to increased death in the state of New York. Not blaming him all for it, but we can't say that his decision-making was good in that regard. The fact that I don't know if he'll actually be picked, kind of makes some sense, given apparently he and Biden have a real affinity for each other. Biden sees himself, reportedly, according to Axios, aspects of himself in Governor Cuomo, but it tells you the type of people that they are thinking of staffing up this administration.
There you go. They have a strong affinity for each other. Which part specifically, Joe? Which part of you do you see in Andrew Cuomo, who now has 3 allegations against him? And I've been told they're all credible. I've been told every allegation is credible. So which part exactly? Which part of you do you see him? How amazing was it for this person on here to say, well, there's some stories about the COVID situation. You can't really blame him for it. Can't really blame him for it. The guy who made the decision. Can't really blame that guy for it. Right? You really can't blame him. There were other people that did what he told them to do. Can't blame that guy. It's just gross. It's incompetent. And I want to know, does that feed into him allegedly thinking he could do whatever he wants with women? When you make terrible, terrible decisions that cost lives, does that feed you and say, I can do what I want, when I want? This is just malfeasance. Big word number 4. We're going crazy with the big words today. You know, before I spout off any more words, Juan, play for me cut 3. Let's hear the apology.
I understand that I acted in a way that made people feel uncomfortable. It was unintentional, and I truly and deeply apologize for it. I feel awful about it, and frankly, I am embarrassed by it, and that's not easy to say, but that's the truth. But this is what I want you to know, and I want you to know this from me directly. I never touched anyone inappropriately. I never touched anyone inappropriately. I never knew at the time that I was making anyone feel uncomfortable. I never knew at the time I was making anyone feel uncomfortable. And I certainly never, ever meant to offend anyone or hurt anyone or cause anyone any pain.
I feel better. Do you feel better? New Yorkers, do you feel better? I acted in a way that made people feel uncomfortable. Not an apology. It's not me or my actions. It's how you feel. Not an apology. I'm sorry for how you feel. Not an apology. Here's what an apology is. An apology has to have 2 parts to it. It has to be unsolicited, which means nobody asked you for it, and it has to be sincere. I did this. I should not have. Apology. I did this. You felt that way. I'm sorry for how you feel. Not an apology. I'm sorry I did this, but here's why I did it. Certainly not an apology. That's an excuse. If you ever hear anybody say, I'm sorry I did this, but here's why I did it, that's an excuse. He at least didn't go that far. But to say, I'm sorry how you feel, and I never knew I was making someone feel uncomfortable, isn't that a little bit of victim blaming? Does that apply both directions? Does that only apply to people that the left doesn't like? Kind of feels like it's not me, it's you. It kind of feels like nobody told me not to. It kind of feels like you should have known, Governor Cuomo. It kind of feels like you need to be a little more woke and available and understanding. And I feel like you actually need to apologize. We can't have real apologies because then that might be an admission of guilt. That would be absolutely, absolutely horrible. This is an easy one. This is an absolute slam dunk. Replace him for any Republican. What happens? Wall-to-wall coverage. Non-stop coverage. Off with his head. Get him out yesterday, a year ago, and take out his whole family. Everyone that's ever known him. Deplatform all of them. But, Mr. Cuomo, Andrew, buddy, booby, name the movie. Things aren't looking good for you, buddy. The sharks are circling. Your allies, they're not only fleeing, they're nipping at you. They're the sharks. There's blood in the water, buddy. Letitia James, your AG, Democrat who hates Trump, found that you reportedly, allegedly, underreported your COVID-related deaths in the nursing homes by some 50%. De Blasio, the bum that he is, he's looking for your job. Letitia James, she's looking for your job. They want your job, buddy. And while CNN will barely cover it, when we were at CPAC, I forgot the guy's name, but someone from the Federalist was directly asking Acosta if they were going to cover it. And you can hear your boy 2 Cent in the background giving him the business on that one too. And Acosta was claiming that they were covering it. Go to CNN. It's one little tiny link at the bottom right. There's picture, headline all over the place. One tiny little line over here about Cuomo. That's their coverage. And then his brother, Fredo, gets up there and says, well, I can't possibly cover him. He's my brother. Well, where was that back in March when you were dubbing him the Love Gov? Where was it when you were doing prop comedy with him? This is another distract and conquer situation. These allegations are what they are talking about when it comes to Andrew Cuomo, not the COVID-related deaths, not his COVID-related failures. Another distract and conquer of the situation. Should he go down in this situation, it'll be for the allegations. It'll not be for COVID. It'll not be for his response to COVID, because you remember, he was the antithesis to Trump. He was clear, he was concise, he had a plan, he was following the science. The media told us. And they're not going to give misinformation and disinformation, right? They told us that he was doing it right. He wrote a book about it. They were trying to run him for president because Joe Biden was such a strong candidate. This is the distract and conquer yet again. There's no way that they could possibly admit that their coverage was wrong. There's no way they could possibly admit that the way they did it in New York didn't work and it wasn't right. If he does go down, it's going to be for these Me Too violations. Another way this is distract and conquer is his troubles are distracting us from what's actually happening in Congress. I told you I'd talk about this a little bit later about H.R. 1. What is H.R. 1? It's called the For the People Act. What a great name. What a great name. They are so good at using great names. Who doesn't want something that's for the people? It's for the people. It's got to be amazing. Names are so important in what they do. Okay, yeah, who cares? What's in it? Man, but I like the way this sounds. But what's in it? Let's tell you what's in it. Massive overreach and overhaul to voting. So the Democrats have looked at the electorate and said, you know, polling shows us a majority of all Americans do not trust the voting process. What should we do about it? I know, let's centralize it in DC and take over complete control. Let's lower the voting age to 16. That won't have any impacts. You're going to bring in an entire population of 16 and 17-year-olds who are 100% reliant on other people providing for them. Who do you think they're going to vote for? A government that says they're going to provide everything for them, or a government that says we're going to give you every opportunity to take care of yourself and to pursue your own version of happy? Which one do you think they're going to go for? There's going to be no impact there. They want to give felons their right to vote back. People who follow me have pushed back on that. I don't support it. There are some things that have to have long-lasting effects for what you do. And there'll be no impact to that either. There'll be no impact to how voting is done there. They want mail-in ballots pretty much universally. We saw what happened in 2020. There's a lot of people who are really secure in how they feel about elections due to mail-ins. There'll be no impact there as well, and no signature matching. But here's my favorite one. This is one that actually took a little bit of digging to find. And this one's got me hot too. I'm getting hot tonight. The worst is a 6-to-1 match with federal money. And what they say they want is to encourage the grassroots voter to donate. So for example, this is that star I was talking about either, specific task action result. For example, if you donate $200, you'll be matched at a 6-to-1. So $1,200 of federal money will then be added to your $200. That's now a $1,400 donation to that candidate. You are paying for other candidates that you have no idea who they are and you do not support. How at all would anybody support this? Oh, because one side generally gets more grassroots donations than the other side. So that's not a power grab. That's not going to pay for liberal and Democrat politicians with federal money. That's not going to happen whatsoever. And they say they're going to pay for some BS tax, which I could give you the name of, but nobody cares because it's going to be a shell game when it comes down to that money at all. This is their way of getting everyone in the country to essentially fund their candidates. It's absolutely terrible. One more I want to talk about quickly, and we're kind of running out of time. We had a lot to talk about tonight when it came to COVID. I'm sorry, when it came to CPAC, because we had such a good time while you were there. Well, I want to hit this one as well. The COVID relief bill. This is one that they don't want you talking about. And I got to hit this real quick. Joe Biden put out a $1.9 trillion bill that he wanted voted on. One person gets to go $1.9 trillion. Now go take it to your subcommittees and divvy it up. Why am I bringing up that Joe Biden brought up $1.9 trillion? Because I want to play for you cut one. Juan, please play for me cut one real quick.
All the way in the back, the blue sweater.
Special interest groups and the pervasiveness in Washington, D.C. really bother me. Do they bother you?
They bother me a lot, and that's why I only have raised $10 million. It's kind of a problem, you know what I mean? Lobbyists bother him. Lobbyists aren't bad people. Special interest groups are not bad people. But guess what? They're corrosive. People who accept the money from them aren't bad people, but it's human nature. You go out, Lynn, and bundle $250,000 for me, all legal, and then you call me after I'm elected and say, Joe, I'd like to come and talk to you about something. You didn't buy me, but it's human nature. You helped me. I'm going to say, sure, Lynn, come on in.
Sure, come on in. I got $1.9 trillion to spend. Come on in. You gave me $250,000. It's just natural. Man, this is pretty useful. Pretty useful when you've had people donate to you. They don't own you. They didn't buy you. That's from 2008, by the way. That's from 2008. Take a look at the way he talked then versus how he talks now. And you're going to tell me he had a stutter? And you're going to try to say it's empowering that he has a stutter? That man is losing it. That man is absolutely losing it. But that man has also said that he's going to see those people who gave up that money. Pretty useful when you got $1.9 trillion to spend, when the unemployment's at 6.3% for the nation, less than 5% for any state that's still open right now. And you're trying to spend $1.9 trillion as if this thing just kicked off and everybody's sitting at home right now. Pretty useful when you owe, not you owe, because that would be wrong, but when you have these donors that are looking for some money. I want to hit on that one again. That was a nice little nugget that I found that I wanted to get out today. One more time, I want to thank everyone who was here over here on my social media site, everyone that was here. A big thank you to everyone at CPAC. We have a lot to show you. Please go over to Right America Media on Facebook, Right America Media on YouTube. Check out your boy. Here's my 2 cents on Facebook. I'm going to take this show and some of my interviews and put them up there for you. We have a lot more to talk about. I've run out of time for tonight. Juan said I couldn't carry an hour. I see him squirming right now because I'm right up against it. But with all that being said, that's been my 2 cents on Distract and Conquer.
Hey, I'm KSOK from KSOK Uncensored. My show airs every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on RAM Channel 1. My platform is We the People, and I represent a stage for all 50 states. And the only thing that my guests have in common is that they are raging patriots and they love this country and they have a great message to share. Please come check us out and join the KSOK Uncensored family.
New York anti-gun legislators are at it again. Bette Midler says Mr. Potato Head has too much junk in the trunk, and illegal immigrants with COVID in the U.S. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Was. You're listening to The Loaded Mic. Anti-gun New York legislators are at it again with a bill called A581. If signed into law, would require all New York handgun owners to carry a liability insurance policy. This is a way of essentially taxing gun owners and making it as difficult as possible to be a gun owner in New York State, as if it wasn't already difficult enough. Democrats in New York and at the federal level can't seem to get rid of the Second Amendment, so they constantly find other ways to prevent gun ownership of law-abiding citizens. The proposal of firearms insurance is not only a question of cost for the gun owner, it's also a question of accessibility. See, when we shop for auto insurance, for instance, we have several options. How many options do you think there would be for gun owners in a fair open market? Do you think you'd be able to shop for the best price? Do you think you'd be able to compare policy options among several different insurance companies? In a normal market economy, you probably would, but we're talking about insurance for something that politicians and the anti-gun crowd have already falsely turned into the most egregious thing. Aside from cost concerns, how interested do you think insurance companies would be in working with a state that has some of the most anti-gun positions in the country? For instance, would it be likely that an insurance company would want to insure residents who are under unconstitutional duty to retreat laws? Do you think insurance companies would want to insure people who are burdened with equal force laws? New York State has done everything they can to make gun ownership difficult for the good guys while simultaneously letting the bad guys out of prison. It would seem New York legislators want the most dangerous state in the nation. But here's the kicker. Not only will it already be difficult to find an affordable insurance policy that covered all the concerns gun owners may have, such as legal fees, should a firearm be used in self-defense? New York State legislators have already made it impossible for insurance companies to even operate in New York. So, after making New York the most hostile state to firearms insurance companies, New York Democrats have decided to go one step further by putting in place regulations that actually prevent firearms insurance companies from even operating in the state of New York. New York policies and technicalities within the state's insurance law forbid insurance coverage for intentionally committed wrongful and or criminal acts. So who would determine whether the acts of a gun owner are criminal? And wouldn't insurance coverage be an important thing to have during the legal process of figuring that out? According to state regulators, the Carry Guard program improperly provided coverage in any criminal proceeding against the policyholder, including coverage for bail money, premiums on bonds, attorney consultation fees and retainer expenses, expenses incurred for the investigation or defense of criminal charges, and costs taxed against the insured or the insured's resident family members in a criminal proceeding arising out of a shooting. Now, isn't that the intent of firearms insurance in the first place? To cover those things? So to summarize, New York legislators want to mandate firearms insurance for handgun owners with the penalty of revoking handgun permits if violated, while simultaneously making it impossible to acquire firearms insurance. I wonder what their goal is. So here to talk with us about that is John Chiara, and let's see what his opinion is.
Howdy.
How you doing? So
I'm good.
So the idea here is create a landscape where firearms insurance is nearly impossible to get,
but mandatory.
But make it mandatory to get it.
I don't know what's that game? What game exists that's like that? Where
The
you have
game
to have
is-
something, but they don't let you have it.
The game is prevent anyone from carrying a handgun, or slow down handgun permitting, stop people from being able to have handguns. And this is just a start. It would start with handguns, and then it would go on to, and as a matter of fact, at the federal level, in HR 127, the big bill that they'd love to pass, which I don't think will pass, in that they have there would be a federal mandate for firearms insurance on all guns, including rifles and shotguns. So they can't kill the Second Amendment. So they try to think about all these clever ways to.
Right. Another move of the goalpost thing. Just keep changing the rules until nobody can comply with all the rules, right? That's what they're hoping for, I would assume. So therefore, people will stop buying guns.
Right.
How are they going to get rid of all the guns that are already out there? Is this going to be retroactive? Well, the insurance thing applies to everything, right?
Well,
if you're already a handgun owner.
If you're already a handgun owner, they already know who you are, and they know where you live, and they know what handguns you have, because they're permitted and they're registered. So that would be an easy fix for them. Well, you don't have your insurance, so you'd have to turn in your guns. And here's the thing: you know how, like with car insurance, we talked about this before. If you have car insurance, right, and what happens if your car insurance lapses? You know, something, I don't know, you don't pay your bill.
In New York State?
Yeah.
they suspend your registration.
How do they know?
Because the insurance companies tell them.
Are the insurance companies mandated to tell the federal government?
Must be, right? Or not. I don't know. Or, well, the state government. It's DMV.
State, right.
So it's different every
So, exactly. So that's the point. So
I don't know if people even understand in New York State, if you don't have insurance, you can't, because I see these car insurance commercials on
Florida,
TV.
you
Well,
don't.
I have a car, but I don't have insurance. No, you don't. If you don't have insurance, you don't have a car that's registered, because you can't do that in our state. Maybe in
Right.
some states. I think it's different in different states. So that might be.
Well, I've had cars that weren't insured. They just weren't registered.
Right.
So,
You can't have a registered car. Yeah.
so the insurance companies under state law have to tell the state government if the insurance policy lapses. And then that way, state revokes your registration, right?
And you can be in trouble without even knowing it.
Yeah.
It happened to
Happens
me.
all the time.
My insurance company, turns out the company that was insuring one of my vehicles mailed some information to the wrong address or a wrong email that I didn't see, saying they were canceling my insurance or not renewing my insurance. So a month later, my broker calls me and says, well, you know, your insurance ran out a month ago on your truck. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not good. But things can happen. Like you say, but once it's in the system, they'll be able to do stuff and you won't even know what's going on.
So, you know, yeah, exactly. So you don't, like New York State, look at it state specific, you don't pay your insurance, or you get dropped for whatever reason or whatever. And the insurance company is going to be obligated to tell the state government.
So then what do they do?
They're
knock on your door?
They're probably going to knock on your door, or they're going to give you a time period to turn in your guns. And it says if you don't, it also says in the bill, if you don't comply with this, then you will lose your permits and your licensing. So if you're licensed to carry a handgun, you'll lose that privilege, that government issued privilege,
right,
which is infuriating.
I don't understand how any of that helps people protect themselves, because it doesn't. It's the opposite.
It's exact opposite. And that's the thing. They don't want people to protect themselves. They would rather have you unarmed, defenseless, and dependent on the government. Well, why else would they do it?
Well, I can't, this is the point. I can't see any other result but that. But when I try to have discussions with people, where are you going with this? Where does that go? What are you envisioning? What are you trying to accomplish? You have all these millions of people who have owned guns forever, who have never shot anybody, and now you want to take their guns away? What does that do?
Right. Now you want to regulate them, you want to register them, you want to insure them, you want all sorts of...
It's almost like they're preparing for a Chinese invasion. Let's get rid of all the guns.
You never know. Didn't the Chinese say that they would never invade America? Japanese?
They never invaded in World War II because...
A gun behind every blade of grass?
Exactly.
There are literally more guns in this country than people.
Right.
And the idea that Democrats think that they can get rid of them is impossible.
Or why they would want to. I mean, but this is going to delve into another statistical thing that I want to talk about with the hypocrisy of the left. I guess we consider that, the policies being policies from the left, on how they choose to ignore certain statistics and then choose to use other statistics. If there's more guns than people, the statistical, the numbers about how many people those people are going to harm with their firearms is drastically small, right? I mean, smaller than any other statistic there could possibly be. Hundreds of thousands of people die every year in hospitals because of malpractice and stuff. All these people own hundreds of millions of guns, and none of those registered gun owners shoot anybody.
We could talk.
What's the threat?
I can give you some of those statistics.
I would love
to. They
go
talk about 30 to 40,000 gun-related deaths per year in America. Right. So let's call it 35 for easy. Take out suicides, because you have to take out suicides, because we've learned that suicides are not directly related to guns.
No.
Suicides in Australia didn't go down when they did the gun ban. They
want to kill yourself, you're going to kill yourself.
Right. They just use different means. So you have to take out suicides when you're talking about the 35,000 gun-related deaths. Then you have to look at police-related. That's probably, I wish I had the number in front of me, but I don't have the exact number. But anyway, to make the math easy, let's call it a total of 15,000, and that's high. 15,000 homicide-related gun-related deaths. And that includes gangs. That includes gang activity too.
Right.
So you take gang activity out and you're down to like 3,000 or 4,000 per year, which is a very small.
Out of how many hundreds of millions of guns?
Right. Out of well, there are more guns than people. So there's assumptions that there's probably 400 to 500 million guns in this country.
And 3,000 people are illegitimately shot every year because of that, outside of all the things that you just mentioned.
Right. So now you talk about comparing it to other things. I did a comparison on bypass surgery. Bypass surgery, I don't know if you have a heart condition or whatever, you need bypass surgery. Guns are responsible for saving 7 times more lives than bypass surgery.
Interesting.
So we talk about the 2.5 million number. 2.5 million, according to the Gary Kleck study and the CDC study, 2.5 million lives potentially saved defensive gun uses, DGUs. That's 7 times more than lives saved through bypass surgery. It's just a cute little comparison.
Again,
right?
the statistics that don't seem to matter in some situations, but would matter to especially the person who's dying. It matters to them.
And there are just as many auto related deaths as there are total gun related deaths.
Right.
So 35,000, let's call it, when really it's about, like I said, it's about closer to between 11 and 15 actual. But there's 30-some thousand auto-related deaths, and 10,000 of those per year are alcohol-related.
Right. So it seems that some people are worried about the people, or not worried about the people that get killed in automobile accidents, but for some reason they're worried about the 3,000 people that might get killed by a gun, probably by someone who isn't a legal gun owner, I assume, right? In most of those cases, or involved in an incident where they were defending themselves.
Right. Well, the defensive gun uses, you have to.
That's the big.
Do you qualify those as? I don't know if a lot of those aren't even deaths. A lot of those aren't even shot fired.
They're prevented.
Right. Sometimes it's just the presence of the gun that deters the potentially violent crime from occurring.
I just don't know where all the fear comes from. I mean, statistically, it's a non-issue. So what are we afraid of?
Well, it's the only thing they have is the fear because statistically it's a non-issue, like you just said. And logical thinking people, smart people understand that it's statistically guns are not the problem. There's so many other things that cause more deaths.
Everything, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. All sorts of medical malpractice seems to be at the top of the list. I did some research on that.
Hundreds of thousands a year, right? All kinds of stuff. Because you get infections and they do that makes, and not that that's good, but I mean, it's understandable, I guess, because of all the risk involved right off the bat, But I again, back to the shooting thing though. Again, we just saw on TV a few minutes ago that 45 police officers so far have been killed in the line of duty this year in the United States. So in 2 months, 45 police officers are shot. How come that isn't on the news? Why don't we ever hear about that?
No, because they'd much rather talk about the 11 unarmed black men that were shot and killed. So here you have huge narrative on unarmed black men, which I think after you get down to looking at each case, I think it got down to 4 actual bad conduct on the side of the police officer. Right. So you're talking about a very small amount, but that's the narrative because the racism narrative is what they need to push, what the left needs to push for their political agenda. But no talk at all about the 45?
45, yeah.
45.
Why don't we care about those people?
Yeah, well, I do, and I know a lot of people do, and probably a lot of people watching the show do.
So those are people that are killed going to work. Why don't we care about that?
Yeah.
It's not like they were killed while committing a crime.
Because politically, it doesn't matter to the left and to left wing media.
It's topsy turvy.
Yeah. So that's all I got. See you later. No, but
Dan already ate his lunch. That's why
I already ate my lunch. But no, so okay, so that's we can move on now to a very interesting topic, which we're watching in the green room, watching a little bit of Newsmax in the green room. And how many COVID positive migrants?
The report said 100 were released that had tested positive. I don't know if they test them when they come through and then they have to wait for the results and they release the person in the meantime. Or see, this is the kind of thing where why aren't these processes what we see on the news? So we can have some kind of information about so we know what we're talking about, because I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. It's like they want you to know specific things, but not others. So even if it's 100 people and 100 COVID positive immigrants released into the population, are they tracking them? What are they doing?
I thought COVID was the thing that everybody was so concerned with. I'm not that concerned with it, but I thought they were.
It seems to be an item that we're supposed to be on top of, I guess.
But when it comes to illegal immigrants coming in, swimming through the filthy rivers and stuff to get here with whatever diseases you could possibly have after a trip like that, how many miles are these people traveling? What can you pick up on those trips? Being with all those people and
all
just,
unknowns.
God,
no way to know. But we're supposed to just say, just let them in. This is the thing. I mean, this is the Biden administration. I mean, it's been what, a month and a half now since he's been in office, whatever. What is going on with these things? What's the policy? I mean, I haven't seen any answers from I haven't seen any answers from Biden on this. When you ask him, he doesn't answer the questions. So what is going on? Where are we going to go with this? What if 50,000 people show up at the border next week? What are you going to do with them? Where are you going to put them?
They're just letting them loose. They're letting them go into the country with whatever diseases they may have. And it's the border states that are going to get.
Oh, absolutely.
Texas.
And Texas is open. They're opening up. They're not going to have a lot of restrictions anymore. So you could have. I mean, I feel bad for those people, especially right near wherever the border crossings are. That's got to be crazy. I bet we
Arizona,
see spikes.
San Diego's a big. Right. We know people in San Diego, and that's a big border town. Jeez, and it seems like the Biden administration really doesn't care about that, and they don't. Let's be honest. The Democrats just want to let in as many people as they possibly can because they think it's going to lead to votes.
Eventually lead to votes.
So they can condition those people as soon as they get here, say, look what we've done for you. We let you in. Keep voting Democrat to preserve your rights, or those mean old Republicans will come in and kick you out. Just like mean old Trump with his big wall.
Yeah.
Right?
He deported all those people.
Yeah.
It's just,
they're still using cages, right? Are they still using cages?
Got it. But now they got cages with tinfoil on them, so you can't see.
What's with the tinfoil?
I don't know. I saw a picture of that. People put the tinfoil up on the cages. Maybe they don't want you to take pictures. Maybe they're shy.
Maybe they're shy.
Come across the foreign country in a caravan.
And it's terrible because I'm sure there's some good people there. And
I'm
the
sure
children,
there are. That isn't the point,
the
though.
Kids, the kids that have to deal with this. You have an open border policy. The kids are getting dragged along through hell, dangerous situations. They have to pay these, what do they call them, coyotes?
Oh, yeah, that whole process where
they pay people to smuggle them in.
From the cartels, basically.
Yeah, they pay the cartels and
see, we should just pay the cartels. $20 billion a year.
Don't let anybody
across.
Yeah.
Simple, quick fix.
Yeah.
That's what, and this is the sad part. There's so many issues in today's world that if you really zoom out and look at them, like we could fix that. $100 million, $100 billion would eliminate global hunger. Let's do it. Let's feed all these people and then see where we're at. You know what I mean? But instead, there's all this, send the money to Pakistan for studies on this and that and all this other pork that's built in, which has always been built in. And I understand how that works. And that's how our political system is. And that's how people get favors done. And I understand all that. But really, when you really break it down, there are a lot of things that could be fixed, but they're not the things that anybody's worried about. They're worried about the 1 out of 400 million guns that might get shot in the wrong direction at some time because the wrong person picked up the gun. And that's gun violence.
They're not really worried about that. No. We have to understand. We have to be clear about that. That's what they say.
They can't be because it's not true. So I don't know.
But they say that they're worried about that. It's all the gun controls are under the guise of public safety. It's a fake premise that these gun restrictions would reduce danger or They don't, and they know that. Everybody knows that. It's not. It's like the secret that's been out that nobody wants to quite talk about. The truth is, they really just don't want law-abiding citizens to have guns in America. Right. That's the bottom line of all of it.
And we can't get an answer of why on that. Why are you afraid of something that never happened?
Well, I think you're still talking about afraid of people getting hurt and violence and stuff like that, when really you have to even go further than that, the next level. They're not worried about people getting hurt by guns. They're worried about the people having guns, right? Because they want to prevent any sort of uprising of American people. In other words, if the government, the whole reason we have the Second Amendment written down is to prevent the government. Second Amendment, people think it's the Second Amendment is my right. It's not. Second Amendment, what that does is it makes a statement that says the government can't infringe on my right. So that's really what it was intended for in the first place. And our founding fathers knew what would happen when some people would get power. And that's exactly what we see with the Democrats.
It's so clear, though. It's like transparently. Nothing bad really happens with all the people that you seem to be worried about statistically. So, but we're still fearful of this boogeyman that doesn't exist.
Some people are fearful because they don't know any better, and that's what they're told. They're told to be scared of guns, and they're told to be hateful and angry toward gun owners because somehow gun owners are reckless. We're out there just trying to hurt people, and we don't care. That's the thing, the narrative they've been fed. So there are some people who actually buy into the narrative. They're that shallow when it comes to the thought process on guns, that they believe that gun restrictions will stop violence, and they believe that gun owners are reckless and dangerous. So they're the shallow thinkers. They're the ones that we can peel right through them quickly and talk about the underlying reasons for gun control, and that's political. So we're really talking about government not wanting the citizens to have the ability to overthrow the government.
Which in turn turns into them not having the ability to protect themselves.
Well, it's a byproduct of it, yeah.
Isn't that against the Constitution? Isn't that anti-liberty? So are we going to do one thing? Well, it's the same kind of thing, the same kind of mentality is behind the insurance thing. Well, you have to have this, but we're not going to let you have it.
Right.
So we're going to make it so that you can't do what you're already doing.
Yeah.
And we're going to have it all under the guise of some other protection thing, like we're keeping people from hurting themselves or something. It's like sad.
Car insurance. You're 16 years old, you get your license, you have to have car insurance. What if the insurance company said, we don't insure anybody under 21?
You're taking the bus.
What do you can get your license, but you can't use it.
Right. It makes it worthless.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what it will do with anybody who owns a handgun, I guess, right? Eventually they want to make them so that you got to turn them in.
Yeah. And like I said in the monologue, it's the insurance companies, even if New York State didn't make it difficult, the insurance companies still wouldn't want to insure anybody in New York.
Too much liability.
Because of, for instance, the duty to retreat. You have the duty to retreat rather than defend yourself. You must retreat first. And if you can't retreat, then you can defend yourself. But what if you don't? What if I decide I'm not going to retreat? I'm going to defend myself right now and stop the violent act now. I'm not going to retreat.
So you don't want to turn your back on the person who's attacking you.
Exactly. Right? And what if I do that? I'm violating New York State law. So what insurance company is going to want to insure me?
They're not going to. They won't.
Because it's so easy for people to screw up.
See, this is the insidious part of it, though, because like I've mentioned before, eventually insurance will decide everything. Insurance, well, and they already do. I was talking to my insurance friend yesterday. They already decide what you can do, what you can't do, unless you want to take a chance and do it without insurance. But they will decide what businesses can open up in which towns and where they can open up and all kinds of stuff because they're not going to cover it. If it doesn't meet their actuary tables, they're not going to cover it. That doesn't make any sense. That's not their business. Right. So maybe the government will have to start offering insurance to all these things that maybe the government will give us gun insurance. That'll be great.
Oh, I'm sure that. Well, I mean, and not only the duty to retreat law in New York, there's also an equal force law. So
if I'm an 80-year-old woman and some 20-year-old kid comes in with a knife, I got to go to the kitchen and get my meat cleaver and go after him, right?
Yeah.
Can't shoot him with my shotgun that my son bought me to protect myself.
Right. So you have to first retreat. And then if you decide not to retreat, you better make sure you use an equal force.
So how does that apply in states that have stand your ground laws?
Some states are different. Well, stand your ground. What stand your ground means is you don't have to retreat.
Okay. That's the process that's changed in the stand your ground law. In
Right.
states, you can stand inside your front door, and if somebody comes through, you can shoot them.
Right. So the way New York has it set up, it's impossible to win the game. The rules are set in a way that you can't win. So that's the insidious part of New York. And
What are they going to do with that? I don't understand how that's going to be.
Well, it's probably not going to pass.
It's probably not going to pass.
They've tried this insurance thing before, and I should have mentioned that earlier. It's probably not going to go anywhere right now, at least right now, because they've done it before. They've been trying insurance for a few years now, different bills.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't pass. But you never know what could happen in New York when you have an all Democrat legislature. It's hard to imagine them actually siding with the Constitution. They'll do anything they can to go against the Constitution. It's insane the way they do it.
Well, plus in New York, we have the situation, which I think some people might not know in other parts of the country. We have New York City, and then we have upstate,
right?
Which are, in many, many cases, have completely different concerns, right? They're not the same thing at all. So if you get enough people downstate, because that's where the population is concentrated, to vote on these things, we're all affected by that,
right?
Even though it might have nothing to do with our lives whatsoever.
And we have about 19 to 20 million people in New York State. Half of those are downstate. Half of them are down in New York City. So that's why we have such a lopsided voting balance.
Right.
So you'll get the majority downstate voting Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And then upstate, you'll have more of a 50-50 mix. So it's hard for us to get more than 1/3 of the vote being Republicans. So, well, that being said, we got to take a short break.
I'm Danny Watts Jr., producer of The Loaded Mic. I just wanted to let you know that you can find us at Simul TV, Right America Media, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also find the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Or you can go to loadedmic.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review.
The Second Amendment is a priority at The Loaded Mic. If we don't defend the right to keep and bear arms, there are people who are happy to violate it. The strategies and tactics of the anti-gun crowd and politicians are sinister, and we need to understand those tactics. I wrote the Good Gun, Bad Guy book series as the rule book to their evil game, so we can understand their strategies and motives to defeat them. Understand the mindset of the anti-gunner in Book 1. Learn the media strategies behind the gun grab in Book 2. And understand the politics behind their mission in Book 3. Go to goodgunbadguy.com. All right. Oh, are we on? Okay. All right. So during,
we just spent 10 minutes figuring out what to talk about. So.
Well, the funny thing is, people don't understand what happens when the cameras go off. Like, for instance, right now, Anthony is in the studio and he's hysterical, and we're talking about. I had some stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I think I want to change course because we could talk about the Mr. Potato Head thing, which is absolutely freaking insane, right? Anthony's over. People don't know Anthony. It's freaking cracking me up.
Well, speaking of Mr. Potato Head, okay, Hasbro announced that Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head announced the line will soon be rebranded without the Mr. and Mr. The brand stresses, however, neither the individual Mr. or Mr. Potato Head will be changed. So they're only going to advertise it as the potato head line.
Okay.
And there's a Mr. and a Mrs. Are there kid potato heads? I don't even know. Are there little spuds? Baby spuds?
Baby
What's the
Spuds.
deal?
Baby Spud. That would be good.
But again, and the funny thing I found was that Bette Midler talked about it. She was upset about something.
Of course.
And she said,
What's that hag upset about?
The outspoken actress seemed concerned with, doesn't seem concerned with the gender neutral switch, but she does find it troubling that the variety of plastic body parts, because I'm assuming the potato head body parts like the ears,
interchangeable,
they all clip on and off, right?
That's
They
the
snap
idea.
in.
So you can
right. So you can customize your potato,
Right.
right? She finds it troubling that the variety of plastic body parts for each toy can detach and be stored in its backside. So
and that's a problem for Bette.
Yeah, that's a problem.
For old
you got to
Bette.
have a separate suitcase, I guess, for the potato head line now, so they can store their body parts in.
So she doesn't want the body parts in the ass. All right.
Can you say that on radio?
Can you say ass is not is okay to say?
Okay.
Because we could be talking about the donkey, right?
I would be thinking I would assume it's a donkey.
Of course.
Isn't
what
that
else?
Democrat? Oh my God! Now we're going down a whole other path. All right. Well, Mr.
All right. So Mr. Potato Head essentially then is back, right?
They're not going to take it away. They're just going to change the branding of the line. But not. I don't even. Does it even matter? Does it even matter? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Yep.
No.
If you care about
Now
that, you
they're
got
not-
bigger.
Cameras are on. Nobody's talking.
Nobody's talking. Oh, okay. So that
All
was
right.
that.
So next, since we're on the topic of children's toys, Dr. Seuss. What the hell's going on with Dr. Seuss?
Racist.
Dr. Seuss somehow became racist. Green eggs and ham, somehow that's racist now?
Raisin in the sun.
What?
Gone with the wind. All these things that are retroactively becoming racist now. And we have to take them out of the public domain because we can't have people reading about this.
Anthony, any comment over there? You're not on camera, so you can talk. Look at him. He's not saying a word now.
He's a meatball.
Oh, I wish we had it. Okay, so we're going to get a third camera in here. We're going to start getting some other stuff. So Dr. Seuss. Okay, so Dr. Seuss is somehow racist. I when I was watching Dr. Seuss when I was a kid, I never thought once that it had anything to do with race. How do they pick this stuff
Well, see,
up?
he started doing cartoons way back, early in the 20th century.
Okay.
That were political cartoons.
Okay.
One I saw yesterday was, oh my God, what was it? It was, I'll have to look it up, but it was pertinent to what we're talking about. But other ones, I guess, supposedly the way he drew some of the characters today would be viewed as racially insensitive. So that's
Okay.
what some people are
So
complaining
all
about.
of Dr. Seuss's stuff now is getting banned?
Well,
The Grinch?
He's green.
But he hates Christmas. I thought Democrats would love that.
I don't know, man. It's a religious holiday. You got to watch out for that too. I don't know.
The Grinch hates Christmas. Democrats typically don't like Christianity. You would think that they would love the Grinch. Another conflict of it, another mental gymnastics that they have to, or cognitive dissonance that they'll have to deal with. All right, so let's move on. How about Biden's soldiers still guarding Biden from what? Who knows? And now there's reports that they're eating food and they're getting sick and they're living in squalor.
Well, they don't have quarters, right? Do they have places to stay? How many? There's
I saw
tens
them
of thousands of
sleeping
soldiers
in a
there.
warehouse or something
Right,
on the floor. These are our military. These guys should be respected.
Right. That seems disrespectful.
But Biden doesn't seem to care.
I don't know if he cares. Can you tell? I haven't heard him say two words that I thought were coherent in the last 2 weeks. Every time I see him, he sounds like he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he doesn't want to answer the questions, or just keeps walking and doesn't stop.
He's an absolute clown show
It
of a
appears to be
president.
not very competent.
You're being polite.
I haven't been paying attention really that much,
Well,
but
he's a freaking train wreck.
Okay, well, I'll take it. Poor Joe.
Oh God, poor illegitimate
Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, he is an absolute train wreck when he speaks. He can't put two sentences together, and I don't think he even understands what he's talking about. I really don't think he understands what he's talking. If you're watching him speak, if he's not, most of the time he's using a teleprompter, and he still can't even read off the teleprompter. I know teleprompters are hard. I use a teleprompter here and there. Sometimes you you'll get things a little bit jumbled up or whatever. But he doesn't seem like
And the
he's
State
even
of the
clear.
Union got postponed, right? That was supposed to happen February 23rd. I thought that's the normal date for it.
Yeah,
Whatever
I would love to see him do a press conference and just get questioned, even by the left-wing media.
Right.
He wouldn't even be able to handle those
Just to see how he
softball
reacts.
questions.
See, but again, that's another situation where I think that half the country is going to look right at that and see a completely different move. They're going to see something different going on because he's saying the things that they want him to say. It doesn't matter if he's doddering and confused and stumbling over his words. I guess that doesn't matter to people. Like so many things we talk about. Like statistically speaking, a leader that was exhibiting that kind of behavior in public, I'd be questioning that. Why isn't everybody questioning it? I never hear that on the news.
Trump's speech at CPAC, by the way, was awesome.
He was on it.
And he hinted toward a 2024 run, which is really cool. People are like, yeah, that'd be pretty
Well,
cool.
he's going to be in control for a period of time for the fact that so many people liked him. He's going to be in a position of power. So he'll be the kingmaker for at least the next couple of years, I would think, right? Which is got to have some leader. We don't have any other leaders on.
Yeah, and an interesting thing was he made the point, and he said that people were talking about him starting a third party. He said he would never do that. He said that would be stupid. We got the Republican Party. You just got to unite them a little bit more, and you got a force to be reckoned with. So that would be kind of cool. Okay, so what else we got here?
Thinking random things today.
Statistical anomalies in voting. And large systems always have fraud.
This is conversations I've been having with people on some debate society pages recently. Is that some report came out yesterday that, again, reestablishing that they didn't find this and they didn't find any evidence of this kind of fraud and they didn't find enough of anything to make a difference. All these things, which like, okay, I get that they didn't find that, but we all know if we're experienced adults that in any large system, there's going to be fraud and corruption, just regardless, on whatever level, even if it's 1%, okay? So if our elections are normally that way, and there's normally some level of fraud somewhere, which people are being accused of all the time from both sides, right? I mean, voter suppression on the right and people on the left are, trying to get dead people to vote. That kind of stuff goes on to some degree. So if you take that normal situation and then you magnify it by adding COVID, by adding mail-in voting, by adding anomalies like, well, let's accept mail-in votes that are postmarked 3 days later than they're supposed to be postmarked.
No need for ID.
No ID, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But if you add all those things together, to think that all of a sudden there's going to be no fraud is irrational. It doesn't make any sense. You statistically know there's going to be more. Whether it's enough to make a difference is not the point, but you, I, and everybody else should want to have faith in the credibility of the election system. Because 70 plus million people don't have faith in that. Now, if I was a politician, even on the left, I would say, we got to fix that. Why would we want to let that, or we just don't care about those 70 plus million people? What kind of a leader is that? It's so confusing. I'm confused.
You know what the problem is? We tend to look at this stuff. I don't know, Republicans in general, I guess, or conservatives or whatever. People on the right tend to look at this stuff and say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. See, you and I, we talk about this stuff and it doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. How is this possible? And the problem is we're looking at it from a logical perspective because we want to produce honest, productive results.
But we're looking at it as a system. This is how the system needs to work so that we can, first of all, preserve the Constitution. The Constitution is a system. It's set up. This is how things are supposed to work. And then you plug people in and you get results. But the left, it seems, is all goal-based. We have to get this person elected. We have to get Trump out. It's all about people, which is
and they'll do whatever they can in the process.
It doesn't matter what that's why they're willing to ignore the same rules of evidence they tried to apply to Trump. They're perfectly willing to ignore them when we try to apply those to the election.
Yeah.
Even though statistically we know something had to happen in the election.
Well, and that's why the problem is we try to open their eyes to help them see that what they're doing doesn't make sense. It doesn't, but they already know that. They don't care.
Well, I think they know, but sometimes they don't know. And I just watched I've been watching old Thomas Sowell videos the last couple of days.
He's great.
And he coined a term which I thought of yesterday as far as a concept. And his term was consequential knowledge. It's like you can know something, but you don't really know it until you know what it will cause. You don't know what the consequences are.
Okay.
And this is where, to me, the left is just because they're not looking at it as a system. They're just looking at it as we got to get this guy elected. We got to do this thing. We got to do that thing, thinking that those things are going to, for some reason, turn into a system that makes sense for everybody when their things that they're worried about are based on tiny slivers of statistical analysis like we talked about with the guns. They're all worried about changing something that almost never in a million years would happen. But when things that matter to a large number of people, like credibility of the election system, they don't care. As long as we got our guy in, as long as we got our immigrants coming across the border, as long as we got new voters coming in, that's all they care about.
So it's just the end result that they're interested in, and they don't care about violating the Constitution or violating the rights of people.
And what will happen because of that?
Yeah.
What's going to happen if you, with the laws, and if you have to retreat and you
People
can't
are gonna
defend
get
yourself?
killed.
People are going to get killed. That's what's
People aren't going to be able to defend themselves. They're not going to have guns. They're not going to be able to protect their families, and they're going to end up getting killed.
Right. Is that okay? I don't know.
It's not okay. in
We're
my
all
book.
worried about all these little tiny, we're all worried about 11 people being shot last year, you know what I mean? By police officers, but we're not worried about people being able to protect themselves in the home. Law-abiding citizens protecting their families.
But again, we go back to this doesn't make sense. I can't wrap my head around it. And because we're looking at it from the perspective of it making sense.
Right.
They're not. They don't care if it makes sense. That's not a concern to them as much as getting the result that they want politically.
They're willing to ignore.
So we look at this stuff from two completely different perspectives. We're looking at it through a lens of logic, and this doesn't make sense. We need to fix this so it works. Right. They're looking at it like we don't give a crap or rat's ass. Can I say rat's ass and crap? I don't know. I guess we don't give a rat's ass if it makes sense as much as we get the end result that we want.
Right.
Politically.
It's narrow-minded. It's shallow thinking. If you're going to care about people, let's care about all people. Let's zoom out so we can look at all people and decide some things may very well be more important than other things are. That's fine. But you got to run through a process to determine that. You can't just take the moral high ground to say, I'm right, you're wrong. Therefore, we're going to do all this and you can't have a gun. Like, I don't know, the rest of us are shaking our heads going, where'd you come up with that? Did somebody make that up? Because it doesn't make any sense in the world that I live in. Again, going back to the personal, where are all these things that are happening? Where are all these people that you think are doing all these horrible things? Riots at the Capitol. Who? Do you know anybody that's involved in that? I don't know.
And completely ignoring all the riots, burning cities down all through the summer.
Months and months.
The entire summer and not only that, but the Minneapolis, for instance, the Minneapolis mayor was right in there with the people, cheering them on while they're destroying the city he's responsible for. Trying to be the cool mayor and get the support of these freaking animals. He's out there cheering them on, and then they rejected him and told him to go back. They told him to get out of there or whatever. They were not his friend. They're kissing butt to all the wrong people, creating horrible policies for the majority of people.
And creating victims.
Victims, putting people in danger. Also, they can gain political power over society. We've given the wrong people leverage and authority. The people who are in office, not all of them. I look at guys like Rand Paul. I think he's an honorable guy. Mm-hmm. I think he would do the right thing. Ted Cruz. I think Ted Cruz would do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Jim Jordan. I think Jim Jordan would do the right thing. These guys, Matt Gaetz, I believe that these guys are honorable, and given power and authority, they would do the right thing. But on the other side, you got Maxine Waters, and you've got Eric Swalwell, and you've got all these Democrats who are just dying to have this
AOC
trying to get this power and control the lives of everybody in the country. These people are bad news. And it's going to take Democrats to start recognizing it.
Well, and the media is not going to let that happen because the media is the fourth branch of government now. They assign opinions to people, and the people that believe what people say, well, you can't believe the news. Okay, but you're believing the news. You can't believe Fox News. Okay, but you're believing CNN.
Right.
So why, I agree that I can't just watch the TV and say, that's true, that's what's going to happen, and I believe that. Because if you do that, you're better off watching cartoons. You know what I mean? Don't watch politics if you don't want to, take the time to get involved in it enough, because most people can't do anything about it anyway. They can vote, but they're not going to get involved, which is part of the point that we talked about with the militia. Like, who are these people that are planning on bombing the Capitol? What group is that?
So just to bring people up to speed, we heard that there was a supposed
intelligence.
This intelligence said that there was going to be an attack on the Capitol, was it?
Right. Thursday.
By a militia group.
Militia, whatever that means.
Yes. So what this is, and I'll say this now, and I don't even have all the data, but I'll bet that this is another made up narrative.
Well, there's no information. And this is what I complain to people about, is that they don't know how to analyze anything. Like, I read that article just before we went on air here. I read through part of that article, and it says intelligence has been received. Stop. Pause.
Yeah.
From where?
Right.
Tell me about that. Because if you don't tell me about that, you expect me to believe that. And if half the people believe it, you're off to the next step.
So then the whole entire narrative and story is based on a premise that we don't even know if it's true.
It's right. And that's how it's been throughout the whole COVID thing, too. You're hearing all these reports. Whenever you hear a report or a study about something, you know that something's not right because somebody's pushing an agenda. Otherwise, they wouldn't be presenting the study. Oh, study said this, blah, blah, blah. And I was talking to Anthony before about how I just really put up a video yesterday that I found about COVID in Sweden, where they had all these lockdowns and shit. No, they didn't. The people decided to do the right thing. There weren't government mandates telling people not to do stuff. The people there all decided, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And as it turns out, it was nothing like we were told. They suffered some of the same things as other countries do, but it was not government mandated stuff.
What country did you say that was?
Sweden.
We were also talking about the minimum wage.
Oh, the Denmark thing.
Oh, Denmark.
This was an AOC. Okay. This was an example of AOC being very persuasive in her presentation because she brings out the emotional aspects of things. The minimum workers in Denmark, McDonald's workers in Denmark this was her persuasive argument for the minimum wage.
So she's actively trying to say that what she's going to talk about is justification
right.
for
She's
the
making an
minimum wage.
emotional appeal and using the Denmark as an example.
Okay.
McDonald's workers in Denmark make $22 an hour. They have like 2 weeks paid vacation and a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay. So this is all part of her argument to go through, which sounds extremely persuasive when you're listening to it.
Do we know if that value 22 is the same as our 22?
I don't know that. I don't know that either.
We don't know. Okay.
But the point being is that Denmark doesn't have a minimum wage. There's no minimum wage.
That's free market.
The company decided to pay those people that amount of money because that was the value of what their job was, not because the government said you have to pay this.
Relative to the market.
Their economy is. Everybody's economy is different, right?
And that's what I always said. There should not be, in America, there should not be a minimum wage. You should be able to, and this is where people get all twisted when I say this, you should be able to offer your workers $1 an hour. If they take it, that's where the market is.
Right.
If they tell you to go pound sand, you'll have to raise your.
But the problem with that is, of course, now you're letting in all these illegal immigrants. So what are you going to do with them? You're going to tell the companies that they got to pay somebody from Mexico $15 an hour to work someplace? And you're wondering why companies are hiring lower wage workers from out of the country?
I've got an idea. Let's not let the illegals in.
Well, that again, it's all, nothing makes any sense. When you put all those policies together, you're doomed.
Yeah.
You can't have a welfare state and an open border. It doesn't make any sense because you're going to have people coming across the border. Here's free stuff. Let's go there.
And you can't have a low minimum wage with an open border because you're going to have the low wage workers. So yeah, so it seems to me like what we figured out today is that the solution would be Trump's wall. So, but they're opening it up. They're letting people through it.
I don't know how they're going to deal with this. I'm just waiting to see how the media presents this, because there's already kids in cages, right? We saw the fence, people putting the tinfoil up on the fence. Like, what's going on here? Is that all orchestrated? Are they telling people to do this? Make sure you bring your tinfoil when you come across the border, because we don't want the right wing media to see you in those cages, because that'll look bad. And
maybe AOC should go back down there and cry again.
It's confusing, right? And it's mind-boggling on some basic levels to me and to you. But so many people just go with it.
We're looking at it from a logical perspective. We want it to work. We want it to work, and so it makes sense. And they don't care about it making sense as much as they care about the result that they want.
Well, it's the same as the election. We know that you can't just take an unlimited number of people and not be able to verify anything about those people and throw them into a system and think that system is going to function normally. It doesn't make any sense. It's never going to happen in any situation.
You can't stop voting at midnight and have no voting for hours, and then all of a sudden when vote counting starts up again, how did that happen? Joe now is all of a sudden in the lead. How does this happen?
Looks sketchy, right? Looks sketchy to me. Even if it's not sketchy, it looks sketchy. Why do things that look sketchy? Don't do that.
I go back to the same just basic perception that I have on the whole voting thing is, number one, here's a guy, Joe Biden, who couldn't draw flies to his events. Nobody was showing up. Nobody was interested in talking to him. Meanwhile, Trump is selling out 50,000 plus arenas or airport hangars or airports. 50,000 plus people are showing up at his things. There are rallies all over the country for Trump.
Plus, he got 11 million more votes than he got last time around, and still lost.
Yeah. And Joe Biden's in his basement trying to figure out how to tie his own shoes. And all of a sudden, Joe Biden.
Video of that? We need video of that.
All of a sudden, Joe Biden gets the most votes of any president in American history,
and can't hold a press conference.
And I'm not supposed to talk about that? Are you kidding me?
It seems rational to talk about it. It seems rational to be skeptical of that process, right?
My God.
That's the whole point. And if I can get some people from the other side to at least understand why we're skeptical of that, then maybe we can have a conversation. But when the other side is doing what I had happen to me today, well, there's no evidence here, there's no evidence there. I'm like, wait a minute, nobody saw any evidence. I said, you're talking about different kinds of things than what I'm talking about. I care about being an adult in the world with experience and realizing that doesn't make sense. That's not rational. So,
and why would they put up barriers in the window so Republicans couldn't?
Right, it all looks bad.
Watch the vote.
It all looks bad. It looks terrible. Like because they're like stupid criminals almost in some ways, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're doing this, but you're letting people see what you're doing, and you're doing these things that really look sketchy, and then you're saying, well, you shouldn't care about that. Why would we trust you? Everything you've told us so far has been something that we don't even know if we can believe or not.
But the result is they still got away with it.
There's a lot of people out there that are willing to give credibility to people that rationally don't show any, because it's all results based. We want this guy in. This will be better. I have local people I know. You got to elect this Democrat to this point. Okay, this guy got elected. Friend of mine, good friend of hers, got elected 2 years ago. What did he do? Nothing. Didn't do anything. Didn't co-sponsor any bills. Didn't make any difference whatsoever. But because he was a certain kind of politician that she thought should be elected, and that would be a good thing. It's all the narrative. This has to be this way. This has to be this way. Then this will be better. Really? Show me the history. Show me what the specifics are. Show me the statistics. Give me some numbers. Nobody ever has anything but their feelings. I mean, I like to feel good about things, but holy jeez.
God, their feelings.
And one more thing.
And I don't care about people's feelings.
Well, I don't want people to feel bad, but that doesn't mean I want to pass a law so that you can feel good and screw everything all up in the process. Like you want to pass a law that says that I have to have insurance on a gun that I can't get insurance for, and I'm supposed to be okay with that? Why would I be okay with that? It's like people are walking up to you and sticking their fingers in your eye and saying, "Did you like that? You want me to do it again?" Because I don't care about you. I just care about something else that doesn't matter.
Oh man,
it's complicated and stupid.
Well,
not to get down on.
It looks like we're out of time anyway, but man, I guess we got to pick this one up next week because there's so much more we could hit on.
And there's going to be more, I'm sure. As we watch the news the next week, a lot of these things, we'll find out more about the Capitol attack and the militias, because people in militias.
I know.
Is that what they would?
I talked to these
let's
guys.
attack the Capitol next Thursday.
First of all, they would never say anything
Right.
like that. It's in public. And second of all, they would never do anything like that. These are people who want to who want to uphold the Constitution. They're not looking for violence. The last thing these guys want to do is
And you know that. And
instigate
I know that.
violence.
But there's still people out there that believe that if Trump said to his supporters, well, go out there and beat up old ladies on the street, that people think that we would do that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
They
it
don't
is.
understand they don't understand a lot of stuff.
Well, they're getting false narratives and they're getting wrong information and they believe it. And the media just keeps pumping it, just keeps brainwashing them and just keeps confusing people. So we got to go.
Gotta go.
We're out. Thanks so much for watching The Loaded Mic on YouTube, Rumble, Simul TV, and Right America Media. You can also catch the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, whatever your favorite podcast app is, we're there. I'm Dan Wass, and the Second Amendment is not a privilege, it's your right.
It is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, focus on.
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
They're stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s. Or
to happen before the election because there are too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoings are going to.
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out the
With
lies.
rules for Thanksgiving. Who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out